recording. This is new.
All right, continue.
And let me make, sorry. Well, I'm sorry. We've had a request and thought it would be nice to close caption the meetings. So I'm going to turn that on. It's not completely accurate. When somebody's talking technical terms, we use it in project review, and some of the technical materials that they were talking about didn't translate right. But if you watch it, and it's hard to keep your eyes off of it, you'll see that it's actually pretty good. So just in case, we thought we'd try that.
So are we recording now, Corla?
Yes, we are recording.
Okay, so I'm going to call the meeting to order. And I guess I thought I'd just start with a roll call because just so that the public knows who's here, and that way we have it as sort of an official record. So I'm here as chair. I do not see Margaret. So Margaret, are you here as the first vice chair?
I didn't see her registered.
Okay, how about Brad? Are you here? Can you say here or something like that when I call your name?
Yes, sir. Here.
Okay, Corla?
Yes. Present.
Mandy?
Here.
Nicole?
Here.
Tina Marie? Okay, we do not have Tina Marie right now. Joe, you here? We need a verbal yes, Joe, for the record. It's attorney stuff. All right, I'll take your weight with a yes. Sam, are you here?
I'm here.
Matt, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Eva?
I'm here.
Don?
I'm here.
Okay, I know that Robert is not here. Angela?
Present.
Paul Webb?
I'm here, but I'm on a really sketchy Wi-Fi and I don't know how long it's going to hold up.
Okay, well, to start with, we have 12. So if you drop off, we'll try to keep a quorum. So
And we'll
with
watch
that,
you to come back in.
yeah. Why don't we go ahead and see if we have an agenda that I circulated to everybody. Everybody's had an opportunity to look at it. Does anybody have any comments, or does somebody want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
Move to approve.
Thanks, Sam.
I'll second.
Thank you, Angela. Any discussion? All those in favor of the agenda?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pretty much unanimous to me. So there we go. All right. Mandy, the one thing I did see is that we have not got minutes from the last meeting. So I was just wondering what the status of that is.
Let me check on that. I thought I had sent those. Apologies. Let me look into that and come back if you don't mind, Fred.
Okay. Okay.
And Tina Marie just joined, Fred. She's just
Tina,
came
welcome. We just
Yeah.
did a roll call, so we will add you to the list. We have 13 board members. All right. With that, we will start with board reports. And I actually have a few things that I wanted to say just to get us started. First, I still think that the planning board is doing really well. And that's really just due to all of you. The board members are doing a great job. The committee members are doing a great job. The committee leaders are, and the public is engaged. And so I think people are moving things forward. So I want to thank everybody for that. I just want to note sort of the general stuff for everybody, and I'm sure you're all aware, but you know, the city and maybe the country is starting to reopen, maybe the world, but obviously, I sent you guys those 2 special event permits, and I sent those. That could be basically because I had not seen a special event permit approved in the last year and a half, and so the city is approving those, and we're going to have a half marathon on August 15th, starting at Cabrillo National Park, and a 5K in Liberty Station on August 21st. So things are starting to happen in that regard. I think some of you are probably aware, but there's the new, I don't know how to say it exactly right, but Montserrat's hotel that we approved, and they're having their grand opening. There was a ribbon cutting ceremony this morning at 10, and on Saturday night, they're having a grand opening party, And I've been asked to attend as the planning board chair, so I'm planning on attending that. And I think some other people might be there, but to me, it's symbolic of what we can do. That was one of the first projects that was brought to the board a little over 4 years ago when I joined, and we used to have billboards, palm readers, and hotel rooms by the hour. So, our work makes a difference. So thank you. I've followed up on multiple things, and it does not look like we're going to have any in-person meetings until at least September. But I'm working with the city on that, and I'm anxious to get back in person. And I think that there's also legal requirements based upon the Brown Act. Right now, there's a waiver of the Brown Act that allows us to meet virtually, but with the way the state's reopening, I expect that may be done away with, and that sometime in September or later in the year, we may actually have an in-person meeting. In that regard, I put on the agenda, and I just wanted to let everybody know, we usually have the meeting on the third Thursday of the month, but the first Thursday of the month is July 1st, and there's the July 4th holiday. And I was just looking at the calendar. I think it's virtually impossible for any of the committees to meet and get their reports to me in time. So I'm going to move the July meeting to July 22nd. That way it'll allow all the committees time to actually do their work and have the meeting. And so put that on your calendar. Our next meeting will be July 22nd. And consistent with our tradition, unless there's a strong outcry, we are going to be dark on August, and then we'll be meeting again in September. And I guess that I have some reminders. There's 3 or 4 of you that have not sent in bios and photos to Paul Webb for our website. And that's important for the public to see who you are and be in touch with you. So I would encourage those few to do that.
That would be Paul Grimes.
What was that?
That would be Paul Grimes, not Paul.
I'm sorry, did I say Paul Webb?
Yeah.
All right, send him to Paul Grimes. That's true. Thank you. And if you have, make sure you send in your eCal certificates when you complete that. We want everybody to be properly protected. And then lastly, I don't know what to do about this, but I appreciate at least 3 of you reached out to me, and apparently you're getting people are getting spam emails from me asking for send me gift cards and that kind of stuff. And so those are obviously spam. Do not send me gift cards. And as I've explained to people, the problem is that we're a public entity, and so all of our names and all of our information is on the planning board website. And so it's very easy for people that are, disreputable to see our names and then try to send false emails to other people that are on the board to try to do this. So I will not be asking any of you for any money, gift cards, or anything like that. And so the only way I can think of to do it is to stop it is by taking down all of our information. But, I'm obviously hesitant to do that because, it's really important for us to stay in touch with them. So if people have ideas on this, I'd be happy to do it because it's really embarrassing to me. But, I feel like we have a duty to the public to have our information out there. So I see, Brad, you have a comment?
Yes, this has been ongoing. I received the same, was told about it. I know Robert Golden got them. I think it may be linked to your specific position as the chair of the PCPB. I noted that, I think that our website, I don't know if it's secure, but, I think some of it has to come down to, internet security, but everything else is, I just want to let you know, they're not singling you out as an individual, at least from my experience. I haven't been on the same as a recipient of some of those too, or a supposed sender. So anyway.
Yeah, and I think what happens is, and it's not even at the website, it has to be secured because they just look up my name, right? And they see Fred Cosmo chair, and then they can go down the list and see who are all the other board members, and then they make up a fake email address, and then they send you guys an email. So, and it's really hard to stop that. So you all have to be vigilant, and don't ever send me any money or gift cards. All right.
Thank you. Fred, thank you. I did want to just follow back up with the minutes. It looks like I did not provide them. They're completed. I just did not provide them to the board. So I will bring that to the board for next month to consider.
Okay, thank you, Mandy. All right, well, that completes my report. Unless anybody has any questions, we will move on to Brad. Do you have anything from as second vice chair? You're good. Corla, treasurer?
Yes, our balance is the same, but it should be increasing by $498.88. I have all of our invoices into the city for reimbursement and they have accepted everything. So we'll just wait for that check to come in and we'll have our stipend for the following year, or for last year, I should say.
Okay. And Mandy, do you have any secretary report?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, with that, we will move to non-agenda public comment. Do we have any of that, Corla? I see Tracy.
Tracy, yeah, I always do, but let Tracy go first.
Yeah, I'm always putting the commission stuff in your non-agenda public comment because it's not really planning board related. So anyways, I'm just gonna briefly mention that anyone that's interested in attending any of the Commission for Arts and Culture meetings, I'm gonna put a link in the chat that tells you when all of the commission meetings and the ad hoc or the committee meetings are. We recently had some time changes on our Friday meetings. So I just wanted people to be aware that they are listed online. They are available to the public. They are also via Zoom right now. So it makes it really easy to come and attend and watch what the commission does and what we talk about. I'm actually on the Policy and Funding Committee, which spends a lot of time talking about money and how we're going to spend it. So if you're interested in knowing more about how we plan on spending the small bit of TOT tax that we get for arts and culture, then you could attend the Policy and Funding meeting. But I'm also going to put in the time and day for the general meeting. So if you want to attend that, you can kind of get the whole gist of everything that's going on with the commission. And that's all I wanted to announce, is just meetings. You guys can attend.
Thank you, Tracy. Anybody else that wants to do public? Go ahead, Corla.
All right, well, I'd like to thank Tracy for all that. I saw her in a newsletter of Scott Peters and she was on the Zoom call. So she's getting around and getting the word out there. So she's really an activist for our community. And I really like to thank her for that and her participation in our meetings. I have a second. Okay, I did admit someone. My non-agenda comments, I just heard today that Brookfield is out and the city is starting the whole Midway development again. And DK will probably have more to say about that. I see him in the meeting. And then also this affects Midway. I haven't been getting out much lately, and I sent you guys all those pictures of that homeless area over there on Sports Arena south of Rosecrans. And I reached out to Kathy and DK, and Kathy suggested that maybe we all contact the mayor and city council to see if there's anything we can do. And certainly Midway is more heavily burdened with those kind of issues than some areas. OB has had it, but I don't know if you guys saw the email and the pictures, but I would like to see if there's something this board wants to do, take action as a group and see if there's something we can do. My big concern beside the trash is, and I'm not insensitive to people's plight, but we had a hepatitis outbreak when this went unchecked downtown. And I just hate to see something like that again. I don't know the status. I don't want to debate the homeless issue. But if this group, I'm wondering if we can refer it to committee. We can all take action individually or not, but maybe we could refer that to one of our committees for action if anyone's interested.
Corla, we're happy to, if somebody wants to tackle that. I want to say that I was at the Midway Planning Board meeting yesterday. And as you can imagine, since it's right in the middle of Midway, they were very concerned about this issue. And it was quite a hot topic that was thoroughly discussed there. And I thought that the planning board there did a really good job. They went after again, Jen Campbell's representative and
Josh Coyne.
yeah, Josh Coyne, and Josh is actually capable, so he can do something about it. And the issues you raise, I mean, Josh was bobbing and weaving about how, homelessness in and of itself is not a crime, which we all understand, but the disease, the personal attacks, the crime, and all that kind of stuff really is. And so, and it's really damaging to the businesses down there. So I was on there, and I chimed in with my 2 cents. And told them that Point Loma was also concerned about it, and asked him to clean it up. And Josh said that they were on it. So, DK, I don't know if you have anything you wanted to add on that.
Yeah, good evening. Not a ton to add. I mean, to your point, we definitely had a rigorous discussion about this yesterday. This is not something that we're happy with, this development. We're not happy with the progress that we've seen of that nature. But fundamentally, we do have to try to find our ways to focus on progress, right? And addressing the actual issue. So I know we did talk about some productive, proactive steps as far as hand washing stations, potentially getting the city to get some bathrooms in there just to try to mitigate some of the risk of contamination just by the filth that's there. But yeah, in the immediate short term, the city ultimately and the county, who's tasked with the sort of health and human services component of our civilization, those are the entities that we're really looking to facilitate, their function. So we're on them, and yeah, Josh is capable, and we didn't have the representative from the D4 office with us yesterday, but we did get in touch with Nathan's office, and I know that they're working towards, I want to say we didn't confirm a date, but Josh is working on coordinating a stakeholder meetings of the business and property owners in the immediate vicinity to that encampment site. And I know the Navy, Musco was there yesterday, they expressed strong concerns as well, from a security standpoint, right? Their Navarre site is, within eyesight of this development. So there are a lot of different community stakeholders that are all engaged. But at this moment, yeah, all we can do is try to find out positive ways to make that change.
Yeah, well, it was a safety issue. As I was driving by, they're all jumping out in the middle of the street and dancing around and carrying on. And I'm really happy with the collaboration that we have with OB and Midway, and we all seem to be working together. And I think we've been supporting each other, and I like to see that continued. So I think we're there for you guys. So
yeah. No, amen. We appreciate it. We very much do.
Yeah. Any other non-agenda public comment? All right. Seeing that, we'll move to government reports. DK, I'll just finish up with you. Do you have anything else for Midway that you wanted to add?
Corley touched on it as well. Obviously, the big news of today was the fact that the city decided to run back the RFP process. It seems like the previous mayoral administration was aware of some of these rules and regulations of the Surplus Land Act, which is a state initiative, and opted to power through, thinking that, I don't know, we were somehow exempt or special. And so, unfortunately, for the sake of the Brookfield folks who spent the last, year and a half, almost 2 years of working on this, and everyone else, the sports arena site in particular, it seems like the city is going to have to, completely start from scratch. I do not know at the moment whether or not they plan on just recirculating the exact same draft RFP, or if Todd is going to want to add a couple different stipulations or clauses or what have you. That still remains to be seen. From what I saw today in the release from the mayor's office, they plan on bringing this conversation to city council sometime in June. They haven't announced a specific date, but I do know that the city council goes on legislative recess June 15th. So within the first 2 weeks of July. Within the first 2 weeks of July, before that July 15th recess, sounds like the plan is to come up with a more comprehensive plan. But that's the news of the day. Other than that, yeah, same, just Navarre. We're working on the environmental impact study, coming up with some formalized comments from our community planning group with respect to the impact of that development, and just continuing to try to find ways to, serve our community.
All right. Well, thanks, DK. Any questions for DK? All right. We'll go over to Tracy. How about Ocean Beach? Any updates from Ocean Beach?
Oh, yeah, just briefly, we are establishing our CIP ad hoc committee or subcommittee for, the next 5 years, the suggestions that we're going to make for the next 5 years. And I just wanted to let everyone know that meeting will happen June 28th. So we've established just an ad hoc for it this year, and then we're going to take the proposals to the board after that one meeting. So like I said, if anybody wants to attend that and participate, if you want to just email me personally, I can make sure that you get the invite for the WebEx meeting. And like I said, it's June 28th at 6 p.m. And we're just going to discuss CIP options for this year. I think that's all I have to say. Yep, thanks.
All right. Any questions for Tracy? All right, how about Muska? I know you guys are doing a presentation later. Do you have anything you want to report in advance of that, or do you want to wait for your presentation?
I'll just wait for the presentation. That is the big thing that's going on with us. So I don't have any other updates. Thank you, though.
I know that I got a message from the mayor's office and I think Tony Atkins' office, and they sent me reports, which I will send out to everybody tomorrow. But I don't see any other government representatives. Are there any other out there? Seeing none. All right, we're moving.
I'm Sharon Hello, I'm Sharon Stephenson Pino, Naval Base Point Loma Public Affairs Officer.
Okay.
I'm just here with Muska.
Okay, did you want to make any type of report, Sharon?
No, I'm just here for support. Thank you.
Okay. Well, you have a nice picture. Maybe we'll get to see you too. Don, do you have a question?
Yeah, our District 2 representative was a big proponent of Proposition E, even though the people in our district voted against it. I'm a little curious why the District 2 is not represented tonight.
Well,
I think the input of our council member or council member aide would be helpful.
I will agree with you, Don. I just think, I don't know. I did not receive anything from Monique, but Monique knows when the meetings are, and I sent her the agenda and I told her when the meeting was, and as I sent to all the government representatives. So, and Josh was there for Midway yesterday. I just think that my editorial opinion, there is a little bit of spotty representation from Jen Campbell's office, and so it's disappointing because that's one of the most direct representatives that we have. And so I wish that Monique was here, but I can't tell you why she's not.
Thank you.
All right, Joe, getting to you early. You're probably still awake here. Project review, bread and butter. Let's go.
Super early. Wow. So this month we only have one project that we'll be reviewing. There are actually several that we're just not quite ready to present before us. So we did not hear them this month. The applicant today is a gentleman named Justin Causey, who I see is online, and he works for a firm that puts basically cell towers in. And they're making a modification to an existing facility. It's an AT&T upgrade, and it's at the little it's in a little chapel that's at the corner of Catalina and Canyon, where there's a quite nice church that's also been before us for some other cosmetic upgrades. Anyway, the gist of it is that they are working within a steeple, essentially, and there are very few, if any, visual effects that can be seen. With that, I will let Justin, if you could just briefly talk through. I know that a couple of people have called me with questions, so I'm sure that there will be some interaction with various board members about what you're doing and what impacts it may have.
Absolutely. And thank you for the introduction, Joe, and thank you to the board for allowing me to present. My name is Justin Causey. I work for MD7, and we're here today representing AT&T. If I could share my screen really fast. As Joe is describing, we are proposing to not only modify the existing wireless facility, we're looking to also extend our current use permit. Our use permit expired in February of this year. But overall, the facility is located, as he said, within the rooftop steeple. The surrounding uses are mainly residential, and there's also an elementary school to the west side. This is just a representation of the coverage. The middle site is the site in question, and the surrounding sites are other AT&T facilities that are currently operational. So this basically just represents the coverage that this facility will provide after this modification, and green being the best coverage to red being the worst coverage, and no coverage is no color. If you were to lose this entitlement and take the site away, it would leave this coverage gap, as you can see here. So it wouldn't be totally no coverage, but you'd have plenty of drop calls and missed text messages. Just to go over the scope of work really quickly, the main goal is to extend our entitlements. We're also looking to reconfigure the existing antennas as well as relocate a few of them. This is just to optimize coverage. The RF engineers spotted that there were some issues with some interference just based upon the location of the antennas. We're also going to be installing a few new radios that are going to help with capacity and coverage. With those new radios, they do produce a bit more heat. So we are proposing to replace our crawl space door with a louvered door to allow for more ventilation, as well as a few exhaust fans inside of our facility in the steeple. To give you a better visual representation, we do have some photo simulations. Left side is existing, and the right will be the proposed. So the overall intensity and look of the steeple is remaining the same, and the main change visually is going to be this small louvered door that we will be adding. It will be painted to match, and it will be concealed. Typically, it's fairly hard to see these, especially the location that this door is. It's facing the rear of the property. And if I could get to the next one. It looks like I'm freezing up a bit. There we go. This is from the front of the property. As you can see, really no visual change. The door is on the rear side. Another angle, you can see the residential properties to the north side, and the school would be in front of this facing building. That's overall the presentation. I'm happy to field any questions that anyone may have, and I do also have the construction drawings if anyone has questions on those.
Okay, we'll go for questions. Eva, why don't you go first?
Quick question. You mentioned exhaust fans. Is there going to be any noise impact on the surrounding community?
No,
from
there will
these
not
fans?
be. The fans are fairly quiet, and they are housed within the steeple. They pretty much have no noise unless you are right up against on the rooftop right next to the facility. And they typically don't run 24/7. We have a thermostat inside that will be installed, and when it reaches a certain temperature, it'll kick the fans on. Once it brings it back down, they'll shut back off.
Thanks for clarifying.
So Justin, you showed a picture that you were next to a residential area and also next to a school. Have you had any objections from any of the surrounding residents or school people?
Not at this time. Nobody's reached out. I'm the current project contact, so everything should be filtered through me, and the planners have also not notified me of anybody reaching out.
And no one was at the meeting. No community members were at that meeting, the project review meeting.
That's correct.
And Brad, go ahead.
Brad, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you. Takes me a second. We were curious about radiation and all that, and Justin did go through adherence to, federal, state requirements, and gave us a little bit of a primer on microwave radiation and drop off and, dangers and such. It was part of the discussion in project review. It was actually, we went back and forth for a number of minutes regarding this. So And he answered our questions fairly well.
I have a question concerning
Go ahead.
community outreach. When you guys say that nobody attended the meeting or nobody's come forward with any concerns, was there something handed out to all the addresses locally that it would affect so they are aware of what's going on?
So does this have to be noticed like other projects? Justin, it's a 300 feet, the city notifies, or is this not like that?
Typically, yes, the city will handle that. We're just responsible for providing the information of those occupants and property owners.
Yeah, so it's like any other project, Angela, they notice neighbors 300 feet from the project?
Well,
Thank you.
I'm not sure that they would publicly notice in this instance, Corla. I don't know the answer to that. There are certain triggers within the city that require public notification, and there are also different radiuses that are affected depending on the number of people and the number of people affected and the type of project. But as Justin and as Brad said, Justin and we had a very robust and in-depth review, and he answered all of our questions quite well. The thing to take away from it is that this just represents AT&T sites, and there are numerous cell providers in Point Loma. And as you saw on that graphic, there's a number of sites in Point Loma. So there probably are more than we would even imagine in our little community.
So Joe, what was the vote in project review?
4-0 or 5-0. I've got to look it up. It was unanimous.
Okay. Does somebody want to make a motion on this project?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and move approval. I think I looked at plans, which Joe was very kind to send me. And it looks like it's a small tweak to what's an existing use. And from that standpoint, I think it merits approval.
All right, we have a motion from Sam to approve, and we have a second is from Don.
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? Brad?
I was just curious for Justin, one thing I don't know that we did ask, the new radios, I mean, are we looking at increased output, or are we just staying, is it just the newer radios that have a different frequency kind of a thing? Or the reconfigurations of the existing antennas? I'm just wondering, so is it just basically in kind, just a slight improvement?
So with their new radios, that will be more of a capacity, kind of capacity driven modification. So we are bringing in the newer frequencies and essentially a faster speed. The antennas are really what control how far and where we're projecting. The main difference here is that when we reconfigure the antennas, we'll be separating and allowing for more spacing, and this is going to eliminate what we call PIM, and that's basically just some interference from each antenna just kind of talking to each other. Once we separate it, you will see a bit further coverage, but the main goal here is to kind of make the coverage where we're experiencing it better, eliminate any areas of drop calls within the existing coverage radius. But we will see a slight expansion, I believe, just because of where we're going to move the antennas. But the main goal here is definitely a capacity-driven modification.
So we're not looking at increased output in terms of the microwave radiation?
No, it will be an increased power. The new technology does drive more power, but that doesn't directly correlate to an increase of radiation or anything like that.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear.
Can I ask one thing? With regard to capacity, essentially, this is an increase in storage, 5 gigabyte storage, something like that.
When I say capacity, it's more of how much data can, I guess, flow through the airspace, is the best way to describe it. So when there's, the population's increasing, more devices are being used, there's a lot more traffic in the air. So this is going to allow for a bit more space Data is going to be able to flow a bit freer, speed up people's ability to watch video, check social media, text messages. And this one is also going to bring a level of 5G. It's not really the best of the best, but it is a level of it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are we ready to vote?
I'd like to add one more comment.
Sure,
Just
go
so
ahead.
the board is aware, one of the topics that we discussed quite in depth was the fact that Justin has been before us for different providers, but one of the ones within the last couple of years was to install antenna on the side of dormitories at Point Loma Nazarene. And we were far more concerned with that because of the proximity of these antennas to sleeping quarters. This particular instance, it's in a church that doesn't have a lot of residential at all close to it and has very low occupancy for the majority of the week. So we felt that this was a very appropriate location for this sort of installation.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, now are we ready to vote?
Yes.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 It appears to be unanimous to me. Anybody against? All right, that looks like a 13-0. And so, yeah, it's important. I'm just going to mention this for the record. So, yeah, Mandy, you're doing a great job with the minutes, but yeah, reflecting the votes on these and at 13-0 is important. And I want to thank, as we finish this, but on project review, just so everybody knows, I mean, obviously Joe's taking over and he's doing a good job, but we got an angry neighbor complaint over the last month where a person felt like the project next to his property was over 30 feet, and it was related to a project that was approved by the planning board in 2016. And so Joe and Corla and Mark Krenich, they've done a good job working with that community member to help him out and to take care of him. So, they're doing a lot of things that you might not see on an everyday basis, but Joe and Corla and Mark, I really appreciate you guys taking care of that person. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. I do have one quick question, which is somewhat procedural, Fred. There is a form, it's titled the 602, which basically is a report to the city of the review status of projects and the vote. I thought previously that it was to be done after project review, which would demonstrate that there was a 4-0 or 5-0 vote. But I see that they've also been filed in the past on behalf of the entire board. And I'm not sure who is supposed to file those and at which time in the project review cycle.
Well, I've never filed one, so I think Mark did them. And it seems to me we should check with Mark and see what he did and probably follow his procedure if you think it's appropriate. But it seems to me that the most important vote for the project is the board approval.
I agree with that. It just have seen them done both ways.
Yeah, so I'd be inclined to lean to submitting it after we get a board vote, because that's sort of the final vote that matters to move it forward to the planning commission.
Okay. They get submitted and it says your application was successfully submitted, but that's the end of the road. I never heard anything after that. So.
All right.
Okay.
Perfect. Thanks. All right. We are going to move on to informational items. And I do not see Pete Shearer here, so he may be waiting to come in around 7, which means Greg and Muska, you guys get moved up. If you're ready to go, we're ready to hear about the Navwar site. And if you guys could give us I think a 5 or 10 minute presentation would be good, and then open it up for questions, that would be really great. If you're there.
Thank you. Yes. Greg is online, I believe, and Skipper is, I just let him know that he is on. He had another prior engagement. So we initially told him between 7:15 he can log in, but I did let him know. So he should be on real quick. But let me check. I think Greg is online. So maybe Greg can start.
Greg is here. You guys are efficient. You're ahead of schedule.
Yeah, that doesn't happen all the time. We can, if you want, we can have Corla do her CPC report first, but if you guys want to wait 5 or 10 minutes or.
I've never seen a community group be ahead of schedule yet, so congratulations.
So it's up to you. Would you like to go now, Greg, or do you want to wait?
Let's go ahead and let one other person go, and we'll get the captain online here so he can join us.
Okay, so you guys will be next. So Corla, all right, we'll put you guys next in line. Corla, we're going to move you up, and why don't you give us your CPC report?
All right, I can find it. I was in different, oh, wait a second. Yeah, I was in different order. Okay, well, last week I emailed the info to everyone, so we didn't have to spend a lot of time discussing about zero parking in commercial areas. And, you know, if you guys want to take it up in long range plan or something, that's great. Laura Fleming spoke at CPC on redistricting. I think Skipper is here right now. Do you want to?
We'll give him a minute to get ready.
We saw a great photo of our very own chairperson, Fred Cosmo, who represents District 2 in redistricting. Each district should represent about 1/9 of the total population of the city. They use the census data to make the districts as equal as possible. The deadline for this redistricting is December 15th, but there's been a real lag in this group receiving census data. So they have deadlines, but they don't have the data to get this all done. Anyway, they welcome public comments. Sandag data indicates a big shift in population numbers in all the districts. So this is going to be a real daunting task for this group. And you can search redistricting. And, you know, if you want to comment, there's all kinds of places to do that. And thank you, Fred, for doing that job. That's it looks like going to be a big one. So.
Yeah, I'll just interrupt your report right now. So yeah, I am one of the commissioners on the San Diego City Redistricting Commission. So this is going to affect the city council districts. And so District 2, which is where we're at, is too large. So the lines are going to have to move. District 3, which is Balboa Park, is way too big. And so that's going to move. La Jolla is too big. That's going to have to move. And so the real key with redistricting is that each one of the 9 city council districts all have to have equal population. And so the lines are going to have to be moved to adjust to that. And so, and that's why I was at the Midway planning board meeting yesterday, because the redistricting commission is going, part of my recommendation, we should go to every planning board in the city to try to make sure people know what's going on. And so we're going there, and eventually we'll probably get one presentation at our board too. But so, think about issues like, I think OB, Midway, and Point Loma, we want to keep those together. But right now we're with the beach communities like Mission Beach, Pacific Beach, and then go up into Claremont. And so think about, there's going to be pushes to move the edges, and whether our community gets moved away from Claremont, and in that regard, it could get moved over to some place like Mission Hill. So just those are the kind of issues that people can think about. And if anybody has any questions, they can go to the redistricting site, or they could reach out to me. Sorry, Carla.
No, that's great. Thank you. It was a better explanation than I did. Tracy touched on this. It sounds like OB has formed a CIP ad hoc committee. This will be presented on Tuesday. It's on the agenda for CPC coming up Tuesday. There's a whole lot of information, a whole lot of stuff, and we had just started this business, and the pandemic hit, and everything shut down, and nothing ever got done with the 2019 recommendations. There's a priority list, and city makes plans and budgets. And they suggest that we submit 5 or 10 items that are important to us. But these I think are big projects, and I don't know. It's a lot. And if anybody's interested, if we want to set up an ad hoc committee to talk about this, or if one of the other committees wants to take this on, let me know, and I can steer you in the direction of some data. But the date of collection for all this CIP stuff, it will be the end of July, 1st of August. So the CPC wanted to ask for a September deadline to give the planning groups a chance to review this information. But everything's opening up and coming down hard and fast, and I'm not sure there's anything that we can get done in our area anyway. But that's basically the report. The other stuff I sent to you about the Muni Code updates and all that stuff. So and Fred announced the ECAL, and so we're good. Quick and easy CPC.
Any questions for Corla? If anybody's interested in the CIP stuff, I know Brad knows a little bit about it, and if anybody wants to work with Tracy, I mean, they throw that out to us. It's kind of an overwhelming document, but I mean, they're big capital projects, and so it's really a good way if somebody wanted to get involved in some planning board stuff, to kind of look at that and try to figure out what projects that we can get done in the peninsula that might really help the community, and try to focus the people on that. That would be. Brad, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just that you're exactly right. Big capital improvement projects. I mean, we're talking about, well, the lifeguard tower, South OB. We're actually, since that benefits us, that was kind of on one of the ones that we had talked about. The roundabouts that have been, there's a few of them actually that are on the list, but they're $1 million a piece. And we can't even get flashing beacons installed. So we have to temper our expectation. And that's kind of why when we talk about what do we want on this list, I kind of back off a little bit, in that I don't want to, get false hopes kind of a thing. It's just, things take a long time to do, but this can just be ridiculous. So anyway, my 2 cents.
And I have the 2019 survey results, as well as the 5-year capital outlook for those budget items. If anyone's interested, message or email me, and I will send all that to you, because I have that from CPC.
Okay. All right. Well, Greg, it looks like you have your team assembled. So if you guys can go ahead and give us that, if we can try to keep it to 5 to 10 minutes, that would be great. And then we'll open up for NAVOR questions, and that way Pete will get to you right after we do this.
Understood. Thank you, Fred. Appreciate the council's time. First of all, let me introduce Captain, Naval Base Point Loma Commanding Officer Ken Franklin is joining us tonight to go over our revitalization project.
Hey, thanks,
Welcome.
Greg, and thanks, Fred. Thanks to the entire team for taking a few minutes out of your day. This is going to be the very, very short version of a very long project, and we'll give you the kind of very, very executive summary, wave tops, of a very long 750 plus page environmental impact statement. So first up, I think we're going to show a very short video, just a couple minutes long. As Greg is teeing this up, I'll give a quick introduction. This is Admiral Bette Bolivar, my boss. She is the Navy Region Southwest commander for 10 installations in the Southwest region. Naval Base Point Loma is just one of those 10. And what she'll tell you is that this is a really incredible opportunity for the Navy and the community to work together to potentially provide NAVOR a modernized facility that it needs, but also potentially do something really great for San Diego. And the other thing I want to really highlight here that she's going to tell you is that we're really looking forward to a robust dialogue with the community, and we're really looking forward to feedback. Greg?
Hello, I'm Rear Admiral Bette Bolivar, Commander of Navy Region Southwest. I want to thank you for your interest in the revitalization of NAVOR facilities on the Naval Base Point Loma Old Town campus. This is an exciting and important project for both the United States Navy and San Diego. NAVOR's information warfare mission is critical to our national defense and is an integral part of San Diego's culture and landscape. But NAVOR's current facilities are no longer able to support the critical cyber warfare mission. This project can start a new chapter in our mutually beneficial friendship with the San Diego community, which began over 100 years ago. We look forward to hearing your comments and thoughts on NAVOR's revitalization. The Navy invites you to learn more about the project. Please view the videos and informational materials we prepared on the environmental analysis to help you participate in the review process. I encourage you to provide feedback. The Navy values and will review all comments in the development of the final EIS and record of decision. As we look forward to the next 100 years of San Diego's partnership and the Navy, we are excited to work together. Hoo-yah and thank you.
So most of you are familiar with OTC Site 1 is what we call it. That's where the old World War II B-24 bomber warehouse manufacturing sites are. Many of you are familiar with that. You've driven down I-5 or Pacific Highway, kind of snuggled in between there. What you may not be familiar with is what we call OTC Site 2. That is where NERPIO, or Navy Regional Plant Equipment Office, is located. That is a big warehouse storage facility. They provide a number of different resources and equipment to the fleet, about 20 plus acres of property there, including an overflow parking lot. These are the two sites that are being considered for this project. This is ideal prime property that, as you know, it's centrally located to San Diego, just 2 miles northwest of the downtown San Diego, a half mile north of the international airport, and centrally located close to that transit area, just north of I-5. Greg? So what NAVWAR needs is a modernized, state-of-the-art, secure facility. Those old World War II B-24 bomber buildings, they're old, dilapidated. The paint is chipping off the roofs and the walls. And when it rains in San Diego, not very often, but when it does, it is not good for that sensitive electronic equipment or the personnel inside. So what we're looking to do is provide them an updated facility. It needs to be secure because they do have office space and auditorium requirements. And by the nature of their work, a lot of what they do is classified. They also need some warehouse storage facilities on site and some lab space, and of course some parking for personnel to keep their vehicles. This is in total about 1.7 million square feet. Right now, they're about 3.3 million square feet, but a large portion of that will be moved off-site. And that includes warehouse and open storage area that will be moved potentially to Naval Base Point Loma. NERPIO is likely going to get relocated up to Marine Corps Air Station up in Miramar, but the other storage area might be over at 32nd Street, Naval Base San Diego, or Coronado. That is yet to be determined. Greg? Many of you are familiar with the work that retired Admiral Baumert does with the San Diego Military Advisory Council. Every year they provide an economic impact study. This one is no different, and it shouldn't tell you anything that you don't already know. The military is the largest economic driver here in San Diego, with over $33 billion in direct spending related to defense, over double that of tourism. They are the largest employer here in San Diego. They provide 20% of the GRP at $52 billion, and that is up from $49.5 billion just a year prior. And that right there is a testament to the fact that the military is an economic pillar of strength here, and it provides a lot of stability having the military here in San Diego, where a lot of organizations, a lot of restaurants, small businesses didn't do well in 2020 because of COVID. This is really, you can see that the military was providing stability throughout the area. Also provides about 1/4 of the jobs through the military sector with 342,000 jobs. The last thing I really want to highlight here is incredibly important, that this is the largest concentration of military on the planet, with over 150,000 personnel, 3 aircraft carriers, and continuing growing population of Navy ships. In fact, USS Santa Fe will be moving here to Naval Base Point Loma sometime within the next year. And lastly, about 1 of every 4 and 1 of every 6, 1 of every 4 Marines and 1 of every 6 sailors calls San Diego home. So this being a large fleet concentration area, this is where we want NAVWAR to be. They've looked at it, considered moving out to someplace where the cost per acre and cost per square foot is lower, like out in Arizona or New Mexico, but that would not be conducive to providing the fleet what it needs or helping NAVWAR get what it needs. Greg?
So we like to think of NAVWAR as kind of like, in colloquial terms, the Best Buy Geek Squad of the U.S. Navy. We have all the technology, all the equipment, all the hardware that allows the fleet to connect. We do the cybersecurity, the network, the communications that allows information to flow from aircraft to submarine to surface ship, space assets, and sea sensors on the bottom of the ocean's floor. Last year, our budget was about $9.4 billion. About 75% of it went to industry to acquire that technology and that hardware and software that enables our fleet to move very quickly against the timeline of our adversaries. In San Diego, about $1.6 billion of that budget came to San Diego on direct contracts, and about $500 million that to small businesses. Worldwide, we have 11,000 people, over half of which, 5,200, are located here in San Diego because of our headquarters and our national laboratory on top of Point Loma. our job multiplier is almost 30,000 jobs created here in San Diego because of NAVWAR.
So this is a broad overview of where we got to today. This all started about 4 years ago when the Navy and NAVWAR recognized that that facility was beyond its useful life, those buildings. So in 2018, that fall, the Navy submitted an RFI, a request for interest, to the local industry here. And then September, a year later, 2019, Sandag came to the table, signed a memorandum of agreement with the big Navy to say, hey, we're going to collaborate, work together towards a common goal to give NAVWAR what it needs, but also do something good for the city of San Diego. So early last year, the Navy started that environmental analysis for the NOI, or Notice of Intent, published in January, started the initial public scoping period to determine, hey, what is the community really concerned about, which Greg and I will talk about further in just a minute. The draft environmental impact statement was released just over a month ago. So right now we're just past the halfway mark of the 60-day public comment period, which ends on July 13th. And as we previously mentioned, we really do want a robust dialogue with the community to make sure that we cast the net far and wide enough and looked at all of the potential impacts of this project to the area. And then hopefully later this year, once the Navy consolidates that input from you, the people of San Diego, they'll issue that final environmental impact statement and ideally issue that record of decision later this year. Because what we really want to do is get NAVWAR that facility that it needs, but again, do something good for the community. And what happens next, it's really up to you and Big Navy. We're going to talk about a number of alternatives next, but and we do have a preferred one that we're recommending, but it really depends on what the Navy and the community decide what's best for you. Greg?
So we have 5 project alternatives. You can go into great detail on our website located at the bottom of every one of these slides. That's also in your chat, along with a copy of these slides and the executive summary. The 5 alternatives are basically, the first alternative was what's considered to be a military construction alternative. This would actually be very little difference to the public of San Diego. It would be a military only option, and I'll go into that more in just a second. Alternatives 2, 3, 4, and 5 bring into what we call a public-private partnership. And this is the ability for the federal government to exchange real property, i.e. the deed or the development rights on our land. In exchange, we get back a building, basically. We give them the development rights to either the developer or to Sandag, and in exchange, we get the new facilities that we need. It's kind of a trade. That's a public-private partnership, and that's what we originally just thought we'd do. In alternatives 2 and 3. It wasn't until Sandag came forward about 18 months, 2 years ago, that we opened up our aperture to include the possibility of having a transit center on that site. So altogether, those 4 alternatives, 2, 3, 4, and 5, create kind of an umbrella of opportunities. We really only needed to do the highest, best use alternative, but instead we did all 5 of them to allow us to have some fidelity into our decision-making process so we could see the effects of different decisions, and so could the public. So we analyzed each of these alternatives, all that information on the website, 750 pages in the draft EIS, thousands of pages in the appendices and the analysis by the engineers, the environmental scientists, et cetera, who did all the analysis of the last 2-year project. Alternative 1, as I mentioned, is a military only. So if you see that big blue dot, that's because there's no other people on that site except for the military the way it is today. It would probably stay inside the skin of the existing buildings. We'd basically gut them and layer in new floors from side to side and allow us to fit in the military only. The disadvantage of this is this would be a federal funded project, so we'd have to go to Congress. Congress would, over the process of budget years, would have to come out and fund this. And we do have to go through that process yet. So it hasn't been funded at this time to go a military construction route. The other disadvantage is there'd be no change for San Diego. Some may see that as a good thing or a bad thing, but there'd be no residential, there'd be no commercial development, there'd be no retail whatsoever. It would stay an entirely military only site. Alternatives 2 and 3 open up the aperture to allow for housing to be on the site. As you can see, 71% in alternative 2 of the square footage on that site would then become housing. 6,600 units in this example, or 4,400s under the low density unit under alternative 3. The commercial and the retail is not substantial. It's basically what's required to support the residential on site, with 1 or 2 hotels depending on which option is chosen. But this does not have a transit center. This was kind of the Navy's original thinking before Sandag came along and made their proposal. So this would have NAVWAR on the site at 1.7 million square feet. We'd be pulling off that other 1.6 or so million square feet and relocating to other bases, and have a significant amount of residential on the site.
Alternatives 4 and 5, you'll notice that blue piece of the pie of Navwar, the square footage doesn't change, but the overall percentage goes down significantly from 18 all the way down to 9% when you're talking higher density. And the reason for that is a big footprint is dedicated to residential development. The number of units goes up on the high end from 6,600 units to 10,000 units. Commercial development goes up by 50% on high end and low end. The number of hotels is capped at 2 with about 400, 450 hotel rooms. Retail development goes up as well, all the way up to 430,000 square feet. The big difference between alternatives 2 and 3 versus 4 and 5 is that 315,000 square foot dedicated to that transit center. Now you'll see the blue asterisk to the left. That indicates that that is alternative number 4 is our preferred alternative. And the reason for that is not only does it provide the modernized facility that Navwar needs, it also includes that holding spot there for a potential transit center to make it more efficient for the employees of Navwar and visitors to come in and out of that area. And it also provides the greatest amount of flexibility. As long as we stay inside that envelope, like Greg mentioned previously a couple slides ago, then we're covered under the current environmental impact statement, okay? So this is kind of the Gucci top of the line option. This is the moon. We're capping off. Hey, this is the largest amount of commercial and residential development that they're analyzing for, the very top end. Now, as Greg will tell you, these are engineering rendition drawings. It may not look like that. It's not very artistic, not very beautiful. It may not look like. And the other thing I would offer to you is that even though this is the recommended alternative that we're proposing to Big Navy, the Navy may not necessarily pick alternatives 4 or 5. It may go with 2 or 3. It may go with option number 1. It may go with what we don't really talk about is the 6th alternative, which is called the no action alternative. That is not good for us and not good for the community, because that's the no action alternative is the status quo. There will be no changes. Navwar doesn't get what it desperately needs, but it also doesn't really do anything good for the community of San Diego. Greg?
One side note, the transit center here is a placeholder. What that would actually look like is not clear yet. We've designated in our plans as a placeholder for San Diego to decide. It could be something as simple as a trolley stop, a trolley train stop with other connections. It could be something along the lines what Sandag is proposing in their Big 5 moves and the central mobility hub that connects to the airport. So that's something that yet to be decided. This only allows for a footprint for it and for the people of San Diego to decide what actually goes there. So in our EIS, we looked at 16 key resource areas. I'm not going to go through all these tonight. I know you've got a schedule to keep. I'm just going to touch on 2 really quickly and then take your questions. We looked at all 16 areas that we are required to do, the direct and indirect analysis and cumulative impacts, but the ones that kind of catch most people's attention, of course, is traffic and the visual. The traffic studies were extensive. We partnered with Sandag to make use of their traffic models. They have a great modeling system for traffic in San Diego. We looked at 92 locations, intersections, street segments, freeway interchanges, freeway on-ramps around in the Old Town campus. And as you already probably know, 24% of those today are negatively impacted by traffic. So bringing in this additional type of development is going to impact the existing roads. So there will have to be changes made. We'll have to be road improvements. There'll have to be modified intersection layouts. There'll have to be a revised design, probably to the interchange itself, including implementing many of the great projects that are outlined in the community plans, but are currently unfunded. The visual resources, we looked at 10 different locations and did 3D modeling simulation. You can go on the website and see all of these images and what it looks like under the different alternatives. As the captain mentioned, these are engineering, not artist or architect drawings. They were dumped into a model to provide massing to give us that umbrella of a look at the umbrella impacts of our decision, but it's not pretty. It's not supposed to be. There's no design elements to this. There's no architectural design to this. It's just engineers dumping in modeling information. But they give you an idea, a sense of what the impact could be at the high densities that we've talked about here in San Diego. You've often heard references to transit-oriented development, high density on transit-oriented development, and it's a panacea that the state of California, the city of California have often looked for, but there usually isn't enough land to do something about it. This is an opportunity for San Diego to embrace what they've said they've wanted to do, and we're provided that opportunity here under these alternatives. Alternative 1 is really kind of status quo. Even though it would be the military construction, it wouldn't really change the heights. So it does look like that today. Alternatives 2, 3, 4, and 5 are variations on the high density, low density, with and without a transit center we discussed earlier. Lastly, we're in our public comment period. We'd love to have you make public comments. Unfortunately, I'm not legally allowed to accept public comments today. They have to either be in writing through the website or in written form. You can also do them during our verbal public comment hearing on the 23rd of June. We already had one on June 8th, but please come out and join virtually June 23rd. On the website, you can find the link information. And you can make verbal comments there, or if you want to make more detailed and specific comments, you can do it in writing. That's the end of our presentation. I will stop sharing and we'll be happy to take your questions.
Well, Greg, I want to say that I appreciate you guys. That was very interesting, and I think that was about the right length. So we'll start with the public comment. I see a virtual hand from Cameron. So Cameron Havlick, do you have a question?
I do. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Hi, Cameron.
Hey, who has the authorities to make decisions as to what alternative to use? You referred to Big Navy several times throughout your presentation, but who is the person that actually makes the decision?
The Secretary of the Navy is the office that controls these type of real estate transactions, specifically the Assistant Secretary of Navy for Installations and Environment.
And then, do we really think it's a good idea to be building a cybersecurity building right in the middle of a heavily residential area?
Currently,
On alternatives 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Currently, NAVWAR facilities exist on that property, and we do so quite well, and our mission is accomplished. What's difficult is that we are having trouble maintaining the facilities as they begin to deteriorate.
No, my question is I question why we would put a cybersecurity building and then build a whole bunch of residential around that area and then put a transit hub that's relatively close to said cybersecurity building that would allow for counterintelligence efforts against our ships and Navy.
We have protections against that, sir.
All right. Do we have any other
I'm sure we do, but yeah, that's all I got. Thank you.
Angela?
I am curious as to why you couldn't put a transit center in 2 and 3 where there's less density.
Well, it's so the transit center option provides an umbrella of density, because when we talked to the public back a year and a half ago, the public indicated they wanted to do a lot of housing. They want to make a dent in the housing crisis. So that's why we maxed out what would be the max usable density on that property and the absorption rates that San Diego can housing market would likely use and absorb over 30 years. So that's why the numbers are there. Whether or not that full density is used or not in those alternatives is really just gives us the opportunity to make those decisions. If we chose alternative 4 at 10,000 housing units, it does not have to be, it could be 6,000 under alternative 4 with a transit center. Absolutely.
And then another question is the viewpoints that you had, from 1 through 5, where was that taken from?
It was up on Mission Hills. I don't remember the exact street cross segment, but it is listed on the website, what that photograph and where they physically were when they took that photograph.
Thank you.
So Greg, I just wanted to understand the money a little bit. So if we did option 1, it would be solely Navy money and you'd have to go to Congress to get that. And that hasn't been done.
Taxpayer money, yes, sir.
So is the other option that's a government private development deal? And so the developers pay for the development? Is that how you get the money? Is that how that works?
Absolutely, sir. Yes, that's exactly right. It's called a public-private partnership. It's called an in-kind consideration. I know it's you're a lawyer, so you probably know it better than I do. But it's basically it's an exchange of the development rights or the deed or a long-term lease from the federal government, and then in exchange we get the new buildings.
Okay, and so then I'm looking at the numbers, and I see that you maxed out on the number of residential units, and that obviously creates concerns in the community about congestion, right? Obviously, we want affordable housing too, but there's also congestion concerns. So is the Navy getting more money if they allow more residential units to be built out?
Basically, the math works like that. Yes, sir. The more density, the more value there is in the project. Therefore, the better we can meet our requirements for our mission, and the better chance we have to make a deal.
So is that is that why the Navy favors the 10,000 units as opposed to 4,000 or 6,000 because they get more money to build out the project?
Yes and no. It really alternative 4 provides us the largest umbrella. We don't know what this is going to look like yet. This is an EIS process. It's very early in the decision. We're talking years until we actually see any change at all take place. So by having that large umbrella, it allows us the flexibility, it allows the county and the city to have some decision space on what to use that land for. It provides that overall arching clearance for our environmental impact so that as we start moving forward and we're making decisions, we have the decision space to make good, smart decisions.
Okay. I don't want to ask all the questions. So I think I saw Mandy next.
Hi, thank you for the presentation tonight. It is appreciated. Again, I have 2 questions with housing. One, when has this become a mission goal for the military? And 2, is there any plans to have military housing at that site? I know that all military personnel active duty do receive a stipend in the form of BAH with a cost of living adjustment. And so that is to all active duty military personnel. So I was wanting to know if that option will be available for housing.
Let me try to separate those out here. Cover the first one first is the mission of our facility on that land. The purpose of this whole project is to provide the Navy with new capabilities and new facilities that we are currently unable to do through the normal budget process. So it enables us to revitalize and reinvest our existing footprint into new facilities at a taxpayer advantage because they're not have to pay for it. So that's the leverage that we're able to do with that land. Whether or not there's going to be military housing, what type of housing's in there, whether it's going to be 1,000 square foot studio apartments or 4,000 square foot multi-bedroom isn't really determined yet. We're really at the very beginning of just kind of going with a number of housing units. The definition of what those housing units will be worked out as we work through the process.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Eva, I saw your hand next.
Looking at option 4, it lists that the height limit could be up to 350 feet, which seems, a jarring height and really out of character for that particular area. And I guess a question about that, how would that impact the airport takeoff and landing pathways?
We've already discussed it with the FAA in extensive detail. It is not a concern. Actually, it's the larger concern is not the San Diego airport. It's the North Island military runway because it's angled in a different way. It comes across from east to west as opposed to I guess from along the coast instead of across the coast. So it's really the military airport is actually what provides us with our constraint. We don't have a lot of constraint because of the ditch lanes for the San Diego part are away from our property and the angle is such. So 350 is the maximum height on alternative 4. Under FAA approval, we can actually go a little higher. Whatever we do, whatever is done on that property will be reviewed by the FAA, but they've already given tacit envelopes that told us where we can expect there to be height limitations, and it's within what we're looking at currently.
Okay. Don, I saw your hand up, so you have a question.
Yes, sir. We had an election last November. I think a lot of the populace was under the understanding that the buildings would be maybe 7.5 or 8 stories. And now there's a possibility we'll have 35 stories. I wonder where the communications broke down. Was it a case of the big Navy switching the desired alternatives? Was it a breakdown in communications on either the civilian or military sides?
I think you're referring to, sir, is the Measure E that passed last year, removing the Prop D restrictions in height in the Midway Pacific Highway District, is I believe you're referring to. The federal property that we sit on does not fall under any of those district or propositions. It's federal property. It doesn't fall under city or zoning laws or local council laws.
Well, if I could follow my question up.
Sure.
we got the impression, and maybe it's no fault of the Navy, that these would be 7.5 or 8-story buildings. Did the Navy not make its desires clear before then?
I don't know where that, the first time that we discussed any type of massing diagrams on that property were the release of the EIS 30 days ago. So if anybody had made any assumptions about what the Navy had hoped to do with the project, I can't speak to that. I can only speak to what we released. And that was, the EIS was the first time that we really discussed massing on the site. We did do in our initial scoping with the public back in February of last year. We talked in terms of housing units, but we hadn't done a massing diagram yet. We hadn't paid for the studies yet.
All right, do we have other questions? Sam?
Yes, I wanted to thank you for the presentation. It was very helpful and at least got a lot more thinking on my part. But I wanted to ask a little bit about how the deeds and the property is held and what the transactions that would be involved for a cooperation with other agencies or whoever within the civilian side. Could you give us some detail on that?
Sir, I wish I could, and I really can't, only because my crystal ball is really effective at looking historically, but I'm not too good at looking into the future. I can tell you that currently the property is deeded, if you will. It's owned by the federal government. The U.S. Navy's occupied that land and owns that land. There are options on the table. It may or may not be a long-term lease like the Broadway project downtown, the 12 acres of land next to the Midway Museum downtown. That is also a public-private partnership where the Navy exchanged 10 acres of land, retained 2, and those 10 acres are on a 99-year lease to the developer who's developing that property downtown. So that could be the way this goes. It could also be a deed, a transfer of title to a developer or to Sandag or other entities. Really, that will be coming down to the economics. What provides the taxpayers the best return for the investment?
Corlett?
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to get questions answered because I gave testimony at the meeting on June 8th. And I'd like to again remind, it's in the chat. There's another presentation, a full presentation on June 23rd where they will take testimony. I made my comments but didn't get my questions answered. And quickly my comments were that I think it was too dense and too high. And I also believe that significant and unavoidable impact is completely unacceptable. But my questions, which I'm hoping you can answer, was I asked about contamination on this site and if this was a Superfund. Can you answer that at this time, sir?
I can, not in great detail, only because I'm not an environmental scientist, but we have an extensive listing of all of the analysis that's been done on the site. We've done extensive sampling throughout the site for both soil, water, air throughout the site. And all that information is available for you to look through on the website. You go to the appendix that's turned environmental, and there's a huge impact site. We do have some TCE on that site. It's tetrachloride ethanol. Excuse my lack of scientific knowledge, but it's basically
Ethylene.
Thank you, sir. He owns the base, so he knows it better than I do. But we have a program in place to mitigate that and reduce that. The numbers are looking good. We've been on it for 8 years. It was some petroleum products that back in World War II, before they were aware of the causes or the effects of some of their actions, they dumped the petroleum products into the dirt. And so we have a process right now where we're removing that petroleum products and changing the nature of it through a, I don't know, there's a
vapor extraction. So I don't want to get into the whole details. It's coincidental. In fact, the environmental team from the Navy Region Southwest, every quarter they do what's called a restoration advisory board, and that is open to the community of San Diego, open to all. In fact, we just did the board last night, so the next one will be another 3 months away. But that is open to the entire community of San Diego. In fact, we do tours where we bring the community onto those sites and show them, hey, here's what we're doing. In fact, over there by Cabrillo Memorial Park, over there in that area, there years ago where the Army used to use the portion of the land for a shooting range just to practice with their rifles and their pistols. There's a lot of lead bullets that are in the dirt. And so we spent tens of thousands of dollars just literally sifting through the sand and taking those bullets out of the dirt and sending them off to a processing facility. And that's the kind of conversation that they do that every quarter, very open. And this trichloroethylene, or TCE, that Greg's talking about, there is a vapor extraction system that is underneath the facility that removes those vapors so that it gets filtered out. It goes through a charcoal filter system so that people aren't breathing that in. Now, what they would do long term, that would, as Greg will tell you, it's hard to know in the future what that would look like and how that would be managed and what they would do to fully restore that site, because it really depends on what the project does moving forward, and whether it's high density, low density, where they have facilities, whether it's commercial, residential. So it really just depends on how we move forward. But again, as Greg said, we're very open and honest and forthright about this. The Navy is a lot like me, has two big green thumbs and loves to hug trees. We're very concerned and very good stewards about managing the environment and being good, responsible citizens. And we do a good job here at Naval Base Point Loma. The environmental team, they're on it every day, working projects just like this. So if there is any hazardous material or hazardous waste, they will certainly be open and honest about that and manage that with the public. Does that help them?
If I remember correctly, the site's about 90% clean, give or take. I don't remember the exact percentage. The one TCE site is the one that we're currently monitoring and remediating. But overall, it's significantly a very clean site, and you can go in and get the exact numbers and the specificity from the website.
Okay. Well, we got it, Greg and Commander Franklin. I want to thank you for coming here. I think that's a lot of good information. And we'll look forward to further discussion. I encourage people to stay involved. And I think that just like to say that in general, we're supportive of the Navy, and we're supportive of improving our cybersecurity and updating those facilities. And we just don't want to like sacrifice our community and density and height restrictions for that. And so that's sort of the concern, is that if we can get that built in a way that gets you what you need to protect us and protects the community the same way. That's sort of the concern that I think I'm hearing. Paul, did you want to add something quickly before we move on?
Yeah, just very quickly. And I speak as the son of a career Navy man who spent a lot of time on Navy bases as a child. And as someone who's concerned about national security and cybersecurity, I don't think any of us would object to the Navy only project. I think that what we're concerned about is the scale and intensity of development. Now it's going to impact our communities. When we're looking at 10,000 dwellings, we're looking at 70,000 additional trips on the streets in our neighborhood. That is simply something that's going to be very, very difficult for us to accept.
Yeah, so I think that's well said, and I think that's sort of a good way to end it. And so thank you all for attending, and I thought that was very helpful. So
Fred, if I may just close out by saying I really encourage everybody here to go to the website in writing and put in your comments. It really does help us dramatically to understand the comments on the community, and we encourage you to do so. At the hearing we'll have the 23rd. We can also take those verbally if you don't want to do it in writing.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, that was a big one. So that was good. We also have a presentation talking about development. And Pete, I appreciate you waiting. We sort of got out of order there because they were ready to go and we were a little ahead of schedule. But we have Pete Shearer here, and he's going to give us a 5 or 10 minute presentation on the Riverwalk development, and then we can ask some questions on that. So Pete, if you're ready.
I am ready. Are you able to hear me okay, Fred?
I can hear you great, and you should be able to share your screen if you want to show us, and then we'll see that, and then we'll ask you some questions.
All right. Well, thanks for having me here tonight, and always fun to follow up a project like that with more development. So with that, let me jump in and introduce myself and the project. My name is Pete Shearer. I work for a company called Hines. We are a global development company with offices all around the world, based in Houston, Texas. However, me and everyone who works on this project live and raise our families here in San Diego. I'm actually a resident of the Point Loma community, so you know, share a lot of the same interests of a number of you on the phone, I'm sure. So with that, let me just dive through. I'll go quick because this is late and I'm sure you guys are all ready to wrap up this meeting, but let me, there we go. So, you know, just a quick overview on Hines. Like I said, we've developed a number of things all around the world. What I will say is we have a great reputation for looking out for the environmental interests and neighborhood interests of our communities that we work within. So we intend to bring that here to the Riverwalk project in San Diego. We've done a number of other projects in San Diego as well. We built Petco Park for the Padres about 2 decades ago. Built the La Jolla Commons campus up in UTC as well as a number of other smaller facilities. So you may know some of our work, but what I'm here to talk to you about tonight is Riverwalk San Diego. So this is the golf course in Mission Valley. It's 200 acres immediately surrounding the San Diego River and the MTS Green Line. You know, right now it's an operating 27-hole golf course. It's actually 18 holes with 9 holes that were shuttered about 1.5 years ago. We were approved at the San Diego City Council in November of last year. Unanimous approval. We were actually fortunate enough to get through the entire process, planning group, planning commission, and city council without a vote against the project. And I think that's really a testament to you know, the number of community meetings that we've had and the input that we received from the community and how it was incorporated into the project. And so the way that we describe this project is San Diego's first truly transit-oriented village. There's been a number of transit-oriented developments, but this is really the first neighborhood that is being built around a new transit stop. So let me walk through it, and I think you guys will get a better sense of the project after that. You know, as I mentioned, here's the site. Most of you have, I'm sure, driven by it many times on the 8 or on Friars Road to the north, but it's about 200 acres. The development plan is 4,300 residential units. We are doing 10% of those as on-site affordable housing units, so 430 affordable units. It will be one of the largest affordable projects in the history of San Diego. So we're really proud about that. This is the right place for housing of all incomes. We have 1 million square feet of office space as well down near the IH. So really a mix of uses, creating a walkable environment is our goal. And then 150,000 square feet of retail, which is immediately adjacent to the trolley stop. I'll show some images of that in a second as well. And then lastly, and I think what a lot of folks are really excited about, especially those who are residents in Mission Valley, is almost 100 acres of parks and open space. Mission Valley desperately needs this space. This will be an opportunity to celebrate the San Diego River, complete the San Diego River Trail, which extends down to Ocean Beach in your neck of the woods. And really provide a once in a generation opportunity for recreation in central San Diego. Here's the land use plan. You can see the transit stop that I discussed right in the center of the project. The higher densities surrounding that transit stop, and then as we get closer to our neighbors to the east and the west, it transitions into a residential neighborhood. That area in blue to the south is where we propose the employment or the campus at Riverwalk, and that's likely the last phase of this project. So let me flash through some pictures quickly. This is the image that we see as the central gathering place, the town square, immediately adjacent to the transit stop. So as a region, you know, we've poured $2 billion recently into the extension of the Midcoast Trolley and a number of other billions of dollars into fixed rail. And so we really see land use as the second part of that equation. And so in order to make the investment in transit worth, you know, make the most of that investment, what you need to do is really provide the intensity, the density around those transit stops to ensure that ridership happens and that mode share happens, and that we can achieve the goals of our climate action plan. So this will be a gathering place, you know, a high street downtown feel to Western Mission Valley, something that area, you know, tremendously lacks today. You can see here in another image just down at the ground plane, the emphasis that we've placed on the pedestrian orientation, the bicycle orientation of the entire project. You know, Mission Valley is many things to many people, but what it is not right now is a walkable community. And so we really intend to provide a sense of place in Mission Valley, something that it does lack today. I think one of the things that is most exciting for myself, but also when we talk to the community, is the opportunity that we have to provide open space. So often when developers get in front of groups like this, we talk about, the project and the density that we're providing. But very, very infrequently do we have the opportunity to talk about 100 acres of parks. And so, this will be the largest park delivered to the city of San Diego in almost 100 years. And it will be the largest park accessible by the trolley, the MTS trolley line, providing, that opportunity for recreation, immediately adjacent to the trolley that you don't need to use your car to get to. So the last thing I'll highlight on this picture is that trail that you see just to the north of the river there is the extension of the San Diego River Trail. If you're not familiar with that project, a good chunk of it exists from Dog Beach to Hotel Circle, roughly Sefton Fields in Mission Valley, Presidio area. And then the rest of that trail continues from the Fashion Valley Mall all the way out to Grantville. So there's this one final stretch in between, the Sefton Fields area and the Simon Mall, Fashion Valley Mall, that we are going to essentially close that gap. There's one final component that's in design that we don't have control over, but ultimately, I think very soon we will see the realization of a multimodal path that goes from the beach to the headwaters of the San Diego River. Let's see. Whoops. This is a similar image looking back at the river. I think, again, the opportunity to provide meaningful open space and the interaction that open space will have with new retail and restaurants is going to be really one of the gems of the city of San Diego. I mentioned this earlier, but we are doing on-site affordable housing. So we'll have everything that makes this a great place for housing of all incomes, open space, the amenities like grocery stores, restaurants, fitness facilities, and then of course, access to transit and jobs. This is what we envision for the campus at Riverwalk. As I mentioned, this is the farther south corner near I-8, likely the last component of the project. But we do have a vision for this area that's different than most of the office that you see in and around San Diego. We have pioneered at Hines a product that we call T3, and that stands for Transit, Timber, and Technology. So it is a fully mass timber construction type, as opposed to using steel and concrete, which generate carbon emissions. Mass timber actually sequesters that carbon in the new growth wood that is used to make the timber product here. And it's just got such a beautiful feel. So we think it really aligns with the ethos of our project, but also with the ethos of the city of San Diego. And then as mentioned, this will be the largest park accessible by trolley. So when I moved to the San Diego region, 5 years ago or so, 4 or 5 years ago, I was blown away with the fact that the region had a pretty extensive trolley system, but it didn't go to the airport. It didn't go to the beaches, and it didn't go to Balboa Park. So everything that a tourist wants when they come here, the folks that don't have cars when they arrive, the system doesn't take you there. So we're really excited about being able to provide a meaningful recreation opportunity accessible by the trolley. I actually, on that note, we just got approval for this trolley design and location from MTS's board this morning. So that was the final thing that we needed to check off in our entitlement chain, and now we are fully entitled. And then here's an image of the overall project. So, what's amazing about this opportunity is the amount of housing and density that this area, this region so desperately needs. We will be able to provide in the way of 4,300 new homes. But also, as you look at this, the regional recreational opportunity that is presented by this project, we think is a very good balance, strikes a good balance between density and open space. Just one final slide. As we came through this process, we built a band of supporters, a very big tent. You'll see some emblems on here representative of some of the folks who supported us. And I think what we're most proud of is that they really span the entire spectrum here. So you've got the support of organized labor and the local trades unions, as well as environmental groups like the San Diego River Park Foundation, and also business-friendly groups like the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce. So with that, let me stop, and I can open it up for any questions that the group may have.
All right. We'll get out of that screen share, and then we'll ask some questions. I will just say, Pete, that one of my pet peeves with the trolley is that, you know, it's ridiculous that we have a trolley and you can't go to the beach, you can't go to the airport, and you can't go to the zoo, and you can't go to a park. So, I mean, when I go to Barcelona or some other place in the world, I always take their public transportation because it actually goes where you want to go. So anyway,
Exactly. Yep.
we'll open it up for questions. Brad, I see you first, so go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I think of a lot of the developments in town. If you were doing them, I think they would be more favorably received. It's maybe getting too specific, but you talked about the trail along the San Diego River from the beach to Fashion Valley and Mission Valley. I have ridden that on a bike, and you do have to get off and take Hotel Circle. Now,
Yep.
To connect here, I mean, likely would have to have a bridge.
Yeah, so Brad, that's a good question and something that there are ongoing conversations for. So let me just give you the quick high level. Fred, if you don't mind, I'll throw my screen share back up one more time. And I've got a map here that kind of lays out, I think, in pretty good, if I can get it, there you go. So this red line here is the San Diego River Trail. This is the Simon Mall property here. Town and Country just built a new park here. So if you go to the east from Fashion Valley Road, the trail exists. You don't ever have to get off your bike all the way till you get to Grantville. You can actually make your way all the way up to SDSU by way of trails that way. And as you go west, so the trail just stops at Fashion Valley Road. So we will extend it on the north side of the San Diego River all the way to our property line. And then the alignment just to the west of the end of our property is really that final segment, Brad, that you're talking about. So what was included in the Mission Valley Community Plan Update, which was approved about 2 years ago, is a bridge behind Sefton Fields that crosses the river there because there really isn't the real estate, the physical space behind the hotels over on Hotel Circle North to squeeze the trail in back there because of the sensitive land next to the river. So the plan is to have a bridge across the river at Sefton Fields and then proceed over to the trolley tracks, and that would then connect to the trail that we're going to build. So there are some groups, including the San Diego River Park Foundation, who are pushing for that to get it done as soon as possible. It's definitely a live and ongoing conversation, and I will, I would encourage you all to stay abreast of those conversations as they unfold.
Thank you.
All right, we have other questions?
Yeah, I do, Corla.
Go ahead, Corla.
Yeah, I saw a version of this presentation at CPC last month. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
I didn't hear last month about the benefits of your wood ideas, and I really like that and appreciate that. But the thing that I heard and was concerned about at CPC was that the parkland that you're donating is in the floodplain, and although we haven't had any rain, we're in the throes of a severe drought. Would you expand on that a little bit? Is your parkland flood?
Yeah, absolutely, Corla. It's a good question. So, one of the things that we took into consideration, really from day one of this project is that the San Diego River Valley is a floodplain, almost all of it. So you can see here on this map or this site plan on the screen, the MTS Green Line trolley tracks that were built in the late 90s, those were elevated on a 100-year berm. 100 years means it's meant to handle a flood that is supposed to occur once every 100 years, or the 1% flood. So really everything to the south of those MTS tracks is within the flood plain and floodway, and everything to the north essentially is outside of that. So construction will begin on the north. We're currently in the process of submitting grading plans and grading permits in preparation for the first phase. So that will begin on the north. And then the real question here is about the park space. And so, like I said, everything to the south is in the floodway and floodplain. And this park is intended to be designed as a dawn to dusk park. And that means that in the evenings, there will not be lights in order to preserve the habitat around the San Diego River, but also because the majority of this space will be within the floodplain. And so on the standard day like today and the last 6 months that we've had where it's dry, this will be fully open recreation areas with ball fields nature trails, viewing platforms for the river. But when it does rain, as it does today, and it floods, this area will be designed to handle a flood, and that is intended to handle a 100-year flood without changing the water surface elevations upstream or downstream. So that's called the no rise certificate. It's a FEMA mandate as we do development around the river. So, you know, long story short, we'll have about 100 acres surrounding the San Diego River that will operate a lot more like the river is meant to. Right now it's channelized, and in the future it'll be recreation opportunities surrounding a river that, you know, at times does flood.
Okay. I see Nicole's virtual hand, and I've been thinking this project might have something to do with bicycle traffic, so I'd be interested to see what questions Nicole has.
Thanks, Fred, and thanks, Peter, for being here. Always great to see the presentation, and I have seen this several times, and I'm sure Peter is well aware of some of my comments and concerns. And just, you know, as this, you mentioned that it's already gone through Planning Commission and City Council, so I'm not sure how much of it actually, you know, if our recommendations can, I'm going to just keep trying though. So as this moves forward and we have new leadership in San Diego, and City of San Diego is actually introducing a non-residential parking reform, I really, really just want us to keep pushing the agenda in this transit priority area, and really highly recommend that there's no on-street parking. That is one critical thing for me, as I've been hit twice in the door zone, and I know well enough not to ride in that door zone. And then secondly, as communities all around San Diego, we have over 500 roundabouts requested in the City of San Diego. This is like, I know we've talked about it. I know we say there's limited size, but I see Seattle in lots of neighborhoods with a very, very small footprint. And we're doing it here on Bacon Boulevard and Ocean Beach. So still want you to I really, really want you to push it as maybe if designs can be tweaked in those street designs when the project is built. But I understand it has gone through City Council, and just trying to push those two items forward. But I know you've heard me before, Peter. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, Nicole, no, thanks for the comments again. And I know these are not great forums for, you know, really diving into details, but you and I should jump on the phone or a Zoom or something like this and talk through some of the details. I've got some ideas on that front, and would love to get your thoughts. So let me put my contact information in the chat. And if you're interested in having a more detailed conversation on this type of stuff, I'd really welcome that.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter. And yes, Spike SD and us would love to have be a partner to try to strategize and help support some of those things. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll put my info in the chat for you and anyone else who wants to reach out afterwards.
All right. Don, did you have a question?
I do. Mission Valley grew up without a fire station. Today, a fire station probably gets 80% of its calls from medical emergencies. Could you touch for a moment where these facilities would be served from?
Yeah, absolutely. And a question that we worked a lot on throughout the project. Again, this works best with maps. So Don, if you'd like, I can pull up a map really quickly if you'll bear with me for one moment. The power of the internet. Let's see here. Where'd you guys go? There you are. Okay. So you guys see in the Google Maps here?
Join the meeting.
So here's the Riverwalk Golf Club. Currently, Riverwalk is served by 4 fire stations. There's one in Old Town. There's one in Uptown Hillcrest area. There's one in Linda Vista. And there's one over in Eastern Mission Valley over by the stadium. And so we did, a number of studies. There's certainly, actually, this area in Mission Valley is one of the best served areas in the entire city as far as response times for both fire, ambulance, as well as a multiple alarm fire where they would have multiple trucks and multiple ambulances. So that's the good news. The bad news is this area floods and there's not a lot of crossings of the river. So we analyzed that in a flood condition as well. And the truth is that on the north side of the river and the south side of the river, it's pretty well serviced from existing capacity. That being said, the Mission Valley Community Plan Update does propose a new co-location for a couple of fire trucks at the Napa Street Police Station, which is right here. And so we will have less than a mile away, a couple of fire trucks within the near future. I'm not sure if the city of San Diego has funded that personnel or equipment yet, but that is included in the community plan.
Thank you.
All right, well, Pete, I want to thank you. I thought that was a very interesting presentation. And if you put your information in the chat, and if anybody else has any other extra questions or comments, I encourage you to reach out to Pete, and I really appreciate Peter, and good luck with your project.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'll see some of you around the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
Bye now.
All right, bye. All right, we're making good progress, and now we're going to go to board initiated action items. And so the first one is by Eva, and she's reached out and she'd like to, on behalf of the environmental committee, make a proposed amendment to make the environmental committee a permanent committee, I believe. So I'll turn it over to Eva.
Yes, thank you, Fred. Since we have quite a few new board members, I just wanted to give a little bit of background information about the currently ad hoc committee. The ad hoc committee was formed by actually Mandy and I a little over 2 years ago. So this is the third year that the environmental committee is in existence. The reason the ad hoc committee originally came about was really community driven. There were multiple issues that the community was concerned about that really weren't served well in any of the other subcommittees. And since the inception of the ad hoc committee, we've tackled issues such as pesticide use in local parks. We've dealt with composting issues. That was another issue that was actually brought forth by a community member, as well as reviewing the environmental impact of the proposed Formosa plan about a year and a half ago. Looking forward, it's become obvious that environmental issues aren't going away. If anything, we will have to deal with more and more environmental issues in the future, primarily driven really by the climate crisis that we are not immune to, and actually as a coastal community are probably significantly threatened by. Our experience with the environmental committee and the issues we have dealt with and brought forward to the city has been twofold. One, we've seen that there's a huge need on behalf of the community to have these issues heard and to be the voice for a community. And then conversely, on sort of the receiving end, the city has been very reactive rather than proactive when it comes to a lot of environmental issues. The city's response is really in a reaction to federal changes, state requirements, county requirements, and not necessarily driven by the needs of the community. And we feel strongly that I think it would make a huge statement to our community that the community is being heard, and also really indicate to the city that these are concerning issues that we are taking seriously, and we hope to be sort of the voice for a community when it comes to these issues and bringing these issues to the city. So we're proposing making the current ad hoc environmental committee a permanent committee on our planning board.
And so the one thing that I wanted to point out, and then I pointed out to Eva, and I actually put it in the agenda so everybody could find it quickly, is that making it a permanent committee, I think, would be a change to the bylaws. And so to get a change to the bylaws, we need a 2/3 vote pursuant to Article 2, Section 7, and then we have to set it off to the mayor and the city attorney for them to review to make sure that it's okay with them. But I think that it does make the, my editorial comment, it does make the right comment. It's the right time. It's a big issue, and it makes the right statement. At least I think there's a very strong argument for that. So we'd have to get a 2/3 vote, which means we need 10 votes of the voting members. We have 13 people, so we'd have to get, and I can't vote, so we'd have to get, got to get a lot of people to vote for it. And anyway, I open it up for discussion. Anybody want to comment? Brad?
in this era, I think that Mandy and Eva should be commended for what they've done. I mean, this is a super important issue. If anything, this could become the most important committee. And I'm thinking, you know, certainly there's environmental damage and things that's being happened, but the climate crisis that we're experiencing is just, I'm sorry, it causes me immense anxiety. And I mean, a lot of the things that we're discussing now, I mean, we talk about density, we talk about housing, we talk about, you know, lack of housing and traffic and all this, but it all comes down to climate change. I mean, and we're planning for a future that basically a lot of us won't be here, right? We just need to move forward and change our mindset. And so I think that this is absolutely the time to have this committee and start talking about these things seriously, because they're most of our decisions are going to be impacted by what's going on in our environment.
All right, Don, I thought I saw your hand. Did you have a comment?
Yeah, and I'm very supportive of what Eva proposes. I do have one question administratively. If a big project comes, say, to the project review committee, how would the environmental committee function or relate to that?
Well, I mean, I think we kind of have to figure all that out, but I mean, I always thought that that they work together. So if there was a big project like, say, Navor, right, and a project review, or maybe long-term planning got involved in it. I mean, there's a couple of committees. Probably long-term planning is probably more appropriate for that one, but be the same thing where they could say, you know, we really like some help on the environmental issues, and they would go to the environmental committee and say, hey, can you take a look at the environmental issues, right, associated with the Navor project, and give us your 2 cents on it.
Super.
Yeah, I think we've illustrated how that could work really well when we reviewed the Formosa project. The environmental actually took the environmental impact studies that were part of this project, and you know, that was part of our analysis in one of our environmental committee meetings. And that particular committee meeting, as far as I remember, and Mandy, correct me if I'm wrong, was very well attended by the public. Again, environmental issues were of huge concerns to the public then, and I think still are. And you know, I think then it was the ad hoc Formosa committee that we then kind of reported back to what the particularly looking at just the environmental issues with that particular project. And I think that could certainly, that same process could certainly work very well with any other proposed large project in the future.
All right, I see Paul, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said here. I mean, the idea of planting a tree that you may not live to enjoy the shade of, as Brad referenced, or obliquely referenced. Not to short circuit the discussion, but I move that we amend the bylaws or make a recommendation to the city to amend the bylaws to create a standing environmental committee.
I'll second that.
I second.
Go ahead, Brad.
Sorry, Mandy.
Brad, okay, so we have a motion by Paul Webb, and the second was by Brad Herron. Okay, do we have any further discussion? Okay, I have one question for Don.
Sure.
Okay, as our parliamentarian, the bylaws say that it's a vote of the voting members of the planning board. So can I vote on this too?
I believe that you could. It's sort of a tradition that the chair does not.
Okay.
If you don't vote, that's a non-vote. It would need, and that changes the numbers slightly.
Okay. Well, why don't we go ahead and see how many people do we have in favor? Okay, do we have, I'm going to go ahead and use my chair prerogative and say I'm going to vote. So I'm going to say it's unanimous, 13-0.
What about Joe?
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah,
Really
so we can
appreciate
put that in the minutes. And then Eva, if you want to prepare a short letter for me to send to the mayor and to the city attorney that we pass it by 2/3 majority, 13-0, and that we want to add this. I mean, I think it would actually, I think it would be good for them to get this and see what they do with it.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you really everyone for the support. Very much appreciated.
All right. Mandy, we're back to Bicycle Boulevard. It's a month later, 30 days later. So here we're back again, but we have a map this time. So I'm going to turn this over to you and let you go ahead and make the presentation, and we'll open up the discussion.
All right, thank you, everyone. Again, apologies for last month. There was just an issue with regards to the letter and its availability, as it was not provided. So we have taken it back to committee, and the changes that we made, the letter is the same, but we added a map. That was some of the feedback. I believe Joe Holisak gave that recommendation to provide a visual map so that there was a better understanding of the bicycle boulevard designation that we were wanting to request from the city. And so I'll take a moment you can all take a moment to read the letter, or I can read it out loud. And then down below, we have a list of the maps that we mapped together, that we use Google Maps for, and then just a handwritten map, because our alternate suggestion, you can't do an alternate route with and so we wanted to be very clear and provide the city with as many examples as possible of what we were requesting. And so here on this, you'll see it's the same. The solid green is identical to the map that you saw previously, but you can see the dotted line here along Newell that crosses over to Evergreen heading west. That would be an alternate route that was recommended in the letter. So again, I'll just scroll up and give you guys an opportunity to read through the letter, and then we can open it up for discussion. Oh, and sorry, going forward with that, I apologize. Paul Webb, I want to thank you. He did provide he provided an example of what a bicycle boulevard is, as well as a definition. So I wanted to share that. We provided it to all the board members. Hold on one moment. My screen share is acting up. Okay, here we go. And here we have, this is from the city, a description of what a bicycle boulevard is. And the screen print is a little small. I can zoom in so everyone can read it. I'll read it out loud. Bicycle boulevards are local roads or residential streets that have been enhanced with traffic calming and other treatments to facilitate safe and convenient bicycle travel. Bicycle boulevards accommodate bicyclists and motorists in the same travel lanes without specific vehicle or bicycle lane delineation. These roadway designations prioritize bicycle travel above vehicular travel. The treatments which create a bicycle boulevard heighten motorist awareness of bicyclists and slow vehicle traffic, making the boulevard more conducive to safe bicycle and pedestrian activity. Bicycle boulevard treatments include signage, pavement markings, intersection treatments, traffic calming measures, and can include traffic diversions. Bicycle boulevards are not defined as bikeways by Caltrans Highway Design Manual. However, the basic design features of bicycle boulevards comply with Caltrans standards. And so I believe that's all I need to share. Is it okay if I stop screen sharing?
Yeah, that's good.
All right, thank you. And I'd like to open it up for board discussion. Again, this was considered twice by our Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee, and it was voted, again, the amended changes were voted and approved at our last Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee meeting. And it was unanimous, the approval. And I'm just going through my notes to confirm that.
Okay, while you're looking for your notes to get us the official count, do we have any questions or comments for Mandy? Don?
Yeah, looking at that map, and maybe I misunderstand. It looked like a part of that was on Rosecrans. And will that, require any stop signs or signals on Rosecrans?
No, no, there would be no addition. And again, I did check my notes. It was unanimous with the passing of those amendments with the subcommittee.
And some, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I want to follow up on Don's question, which is very good, because I'm concerned that there could have been an extension that would avoid using that little strip of Rosecrans. And I'm a little concerned about the number of fast cars on Rosecrans and the potential incidents of problems with bicycle encounters with vehicles.
Well, I'd like to divert this to Nicole Burgess because it really comes down to traffic safety in regards to Rosecrans and Nimitz, but I would like to divert to Nicole. She has a better understanding, especially since she utilizes these roads every day on her bike.
Thank you, Mandy. And so, yes, and I did initiate this request. So thank you. And I appreciate Mandy for really laying it out well, and the great letter that, you know, shows it all. This is really coming from Liberty Station into Ocean Beach as a direct route for me. Not necessarily is it going to be a perfect route going the opposite direction. So the part that you're on Rosecrans is something, you know, I ride all the time out Lanning. It is the safest way to cross because it does have a light signal there. An improvement there would actually be to make sure the light activates the cyclists. That would be one of my biggest improvements for that light and that intersection. Are there more improvements to Rosecrans? Of course. I believe we've talked about it last month at our Traffic Transportation Committee that Rosecrans really should be evaluated for a multimodal corridor. But with that being said, this is a little bit of a shortcut that gets me off Nimitz and very, very busy corridors. And other cyclists. So I want them to understand designating it as a bike route is really the main goal here. Highlighting it as a bicycle boulevard just gets that extra nudge to really create more of a bike friendly atmosphere. I'm going to let you know right off the bat, none of these traffic calming improvements are going to come and happen immediately, nor without your input. So this is really just a designation. And then I'll just let you know also, although it's not in the MUTCD as designated, bicycle boulevards aren't recognized, it is being recognized at Sandag. They're actually calling them class 5 bikeways. And this is new that I just found out at Sandag. So this is a Sandag with their new RTP is actually going to be looking at class 4, which is the vertical separations with flex posts, class 1 with no vehicle traffic, and these bicycle boulevards. So they're really, really moving away from bike lanes. And these bicycle boulevards are great for moving bicycles through neighborhoods to avoid those high vehicle car-centric corridors. So that's really the background to this, and I can answer any other questions.
Okay, I think, Sam, you had the next question. Did you want to ask a question, Sam? And then we'll go to Paul.
Sorry, I didn't have another question.
Okay, go ahead, Paul, then.
Yeah, I think getting bicycles off of Rosecrans is a terrific idea. And I have no problem with designating Locust Street in some fashion. You know, or the Rosecrans depot to Locust. That's not the issue as far as I'm concerned. I don't know what we're voting on. We have a proposal, but there's an alternative, and then there's a map that shows a traffic circle. And I just would like some clarity as to what the concept is that we're endorsing.
I believe that the letter is clear as we're asking the city to amend the community plan and to provide connect Liberty Station, and the letter basically like goes through the streets. Again, these streets are in very poor condition. I don't know how clear we need to be for you. We provided you with your, you know, the definition of a bicycle boulevard as well as the letter and a map. Would there be any other items that would help make it clear for you, Paul?
Yeah, I'm concerned. Are we endorsing the route that's originally described in the letter, or are we endorsing the alternate route? And are we endorsing a traffic circle at the Evergreen and Nimitz intersection as is shown on your exhibit?
Thanks.
That is correct.
Andy, could you maybe screen share the map again?
Sure,
And
I
like
can share.
help clarify it maybe?
Sure.
Oh, let me
Again-
just clarify. So the route is designated from Lanning to Nimitz on Locust. That is because that is the route that really is accessible right now. A long-term strategy is Evergreen. If there was ever Evergreen and Nimitz has been an ongoing conversation for years and years. And at the traffic subcommittee, we talk about some of those improvements at Evergreen and Nimitz. So really the long-term vision would be for Evergreen, but technically there, until we do a CIP project, that will never happen. So we need to, so this is the designated route until we get that up to Evergreen. And 2 years ago, we had Evergreen to the west as voted as a bicycle. We amended this to have Evergreen as a bicycle boulevard. So that would be making that long-term connection. So hypothetically, I look at it as long vision. You know, if Sandag was to do their Nimitz corridor project as part of their EAP project, you know, this could be part of that evaluation. Our community has already vetted it, but right now, what makes sense today in today's world is Locust. And that throws me right out onto Nimitz safest way. So if I was just to get a signage that says bikes, make a right, make a left, that's what I'm looking for and support from you guys. Does that help? We're not advocating for the circle at Evergreen at the moment. We're just designating this current bike route on Locust, and then a future one, if Evergreen ever has any major improvements, we want it to go out there. Does that help clarify, Paul?
Yeah, it does. And as I said, I'm fully in favor of getting the traffic off Rosecrans. I don't like riding on Rosecrans. And I ride down Nimitz with some regularity toward the Liberty Station and Shelter Island areas. And I'm fully aware of and supportive of what you're looking for. It just came to me as a little bit clumsy, and I wasn't sure which alternative we were supporting. They're not the same.
So, I mean, Nicole, should we just be having a letter that focused on the one route that we're supporting right now, or should we have both in there?
I think the letter clearly states it. Thank you, Mandy. I see your hand. I was gonna let Brad, I saw his hand up there as well.
Okay.
I think the letter is as is, and it's clear, you know, she wanted to provide the map, to provide an alternate for the city. Again, the city is going to do what they do, but again, providing that alternate route if that works best for future planning projects. But again, the big goal is safety for cyclists that are trying to navigate our community.
Okay, Brad, did you have a question?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I don't want to be a wet blanket here, but here goes. Okay, I guess I don't understand the definition here, bike boulevard, where they talk about that this is going to prioritize bicycle travel or vehicular travel. When you're talking on Lanning, you're surrounded by hundreds of homes. Because when I mean, you've got the buffered lane on Harbor Drive to Nimitz, and you've got basically one street connection and one driveway till you get to Rosecrans. But on the route you're proposing, there must be 10 plus intersections, and you've got some intersections that they don't have stop signs or uncontrolled. I guess I don't understand. And Nicole, I mean, you were an advocate of the cycle track on Nimitz, and it seems as though that buffered lane with the addition of flex posts would be, I mean, it would just, I mean, I've ridden that itself, and that's pretty smooth and fast, and I haven't felt uncomfortable there. So I guess, I mean, I'd be in favor if you wanted to make this a bike route, but I guess it just, to me, it doesn't meet the definition of what, you know, I went to NACDO, which you turned me on to, and their definition of bike boulevard, it seems as though it just seems to be a much more bike centric thing. And for us to designate this as a bike boulevard with all those people at Navy Housing and there in Liberty Station, it just seems as though I just don't see how it really fits in terms of a definition.
The bicycle boulevard basically is getting us out of that. It's designating it behind that corridor. It's just the connection. If we want to label it as a bicycle route, because
And a bike priority route or a bike route. I mean, I guess I'm just troubled by the bike boulevard with capital letters because there's a specific definition for what it is. And to me, it doesn't seem like it's ever going to fit that definition. But
so bicycle boulevard are very, very popular in other states and cities. And so you want to create those places where it is safe and you can ride without traffic going 25 miles per hour. Liberty Station is actually, some of those areas are, all those cars speed on there, they're really not supposed to go very fast. So
yeah, well, just you've got that medical center, you've got all that, that area with the hotels. When you first pull on the landing, that first block is really busy. And it seems like everybody that's in that Navy Housing, they're going to be exiting on those 3 exits that are coming right down to the landing. I mean, it just doesn't seem as though the traffic is ever going to be, and I also read that, I also tried to look up traffic counts. I went to the city's website. There is no traffic count for landing, at least that I could find on their matrix. And supposedly it's like 3,000 a day limit, and they would shoot for 1,500 for something designated as a bicycle boulevard. So again, we're getting into definitions. If you wanted to make it a bike route, I'd be in favor, but I just, to amend our plan to call it that, I just am a little troubled by it.
All right, well, when we think about that, that comment, I'm going to go over to Matt because his was the next hand I saw, and I know Matt's up in Puget Sound and is still dialing in to be with us. So I appreciate him, and also Paul Webb, who's also on a vacation.
Thank you. And my comment was short, just in response to what Brad was bringing up. I would say landing is not maybe the ideal definition of a bicycle boulevard. However, it already is designated with class 3 with the bicycle sharrows. So I think basically what we're asking is for, hey, we already have this corridor that's a good outlet for bicycle traffic leaving Liberty Station. And we just want to connect that more with what's on the north side of Rosecrans. And with this designation, there'll be better wayfinding and signage, and it'll help get bicyclists who are probably already on landing to a potentially safer way to connect with Nimitz.
So with that said, thank you very much, Matt. I appreciate that.
All right.
So then how come how come you just don't go straight across Russell Street to Locust? Why the turn onto Rosecrans?
I think it's an elevation concern. Can you verify that, Nicole?
Nicole, is that why?
that is correct. Yes. If you're on an e-bike, you're okay going up that hill, but
You know me too well.
I will prefer to go the extra block or two on Rosecrans rather than do the hill. So experience, I mean, personal.
All right, the next question I saw was Corla, you had your hand up.
Yes, I have some questions and some comments. When did Evergreen get designated bike boulevard, in which areas? That's my question. I have some other things after. Do you know?
Oh, that was about 2 or 3 years ago with COVID.
I'm not sure that it was. And then my objection is to the language of requesting. I would like to request the city evaluate, because I say this with the stop signs and everything else. We're not the experts, we're not engineers, but I'd like to see the city evaluate this and not jump directly to that. And also a couple of other things. In long range planning, there's a letter on our website in April 19 of 2019. And it was decided by the board that we were going to take our plan amendments and bundle them all up to have more impact with the city. So I'm not sure about doing piecemeal plan amendments, like just throwing them out like that, because the board had not approved that previously. And then lastly, we have an existing community plan, and there are 3 pages that address our bike paths in our plan. And it seems to me that this is kind of shortcutting what's already in the plan. So my concern with that is, and I'm all for bike safety and all that, even though I'm not a rider, but my concern is that, you know, where are we going to end up? If we have something mapped out in the plan, but we start piecemealing it from here and there, where do we end up? Do we end up with something in the plan, or, you know, like a bunch of other stuff? So that was a lot. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thanks. I've seen Jeff Page's hand up for a while. So Jeff, I think you are next in order. Do you have a comment, Jeff?
Yeah, I do. And it took me a while to figure out how to raise the hand. But my problem is I looked at this thing and I sent you guys an email about this today. You have a letter posted for this agenda, and it does not show that graphic about what a bike boulevard is. And I think anybody looking at that graphic can see there can be a whole lot of changes to a street based on what's possible to put in there. And I don't see that there was any public input whatsoever from the people who live on this route. When this thing got sent back to the subcommittee last time, it was because there wasn't a map. I listened to the transportation meeting and I watched, and the only concern was, let's have a map. And it was a hand-drawn map. There was no further effort done whatsoever. The people along this route should see this graphic about what the possibilities are for this street and have something to say about it. Nothing's been done. This is just somebody's proposal for a route, and it could really affect the people who live there.
Okay, thank you. Don, I saw your hand up. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I believe the concept here is to avoid bottlenecks in getting through Point Loma. And this is a means of getting from Liberty Station across Rosecrans and other directions. And I think it's quite beneficial in that respect. I think that trying to delay this doesn't accomplish. I'm supportive of this proposal. I do have a question. The bike boulevard is a concept that isn't commonplace in San Diego yet. How would the street be, would the pavement be painted in a special way, or what steps would be taken to make the public aware of the boulevard?
I could respond to that if no one else was.
Yeah.
Okay. Good question, Don. So right now, what a bike boulevard would designate is basically signage and potentially paint like sharrows on the street. There isn't anything official, like you say, that's being put in place like this, but Sandag is in the works trying to get it. Just for one example of what this could look like very quickly, when I lived in Oakland and Emeryville, there were different colored street signs to designate bike boulevards, even, you know, with lack of paint on the ground. So if you were riding and all the street signs were green, but here's a blue one, and you know that's a bike boulevard, and you want to, you know, change your direction and go to another part of the city, there'd be another blue sign to direct you. So we're looking at changes like that, nothing that's, you know, majorly affecting the existing infrastructure.
All right, we've had a fair amount of discussion. I don't know if we want to come to a conclusion, or do people want to continue to discuss it? Paul, did you have one more comment? And
yeah, I look at Locust Street. It's a very low volume street. I don't know why we couldn't just designate it as a bike lane. I heard of someone's comments, I'm not sure who that was, regarding input from the people who live on that street. And that was compelling to me, because we have not really talked to those people about what's happening there. But creating a bike lane, I think, would be relatively low impact, but achieve the same results.
what are your thoughts on that, Nicole? Go ahead,
Well,
Nicole.
designating it as a bike lane is actually more specific and takes up more space. It depends if it has a space. So honestly, I just wanted to answer Corliss' comments about amendments and just let you know, the reason I brought this to attention is because our streets that behind that corridor are in such horrible condition. And so are they actually going to be up for resurfacing or repurpose, overlay project in the next year? So that's why I brought this to the board, because I wanted it to be on the city's radar. I have a close communication. I sit on the mobility board. If that street's going to be paved, I want to already have it designated as a route. As Matt mentions, it is truly probably basically signage. It is not going to affect the traffic owners, the people that live in the community. If anything, it is going to improve traffic for them because there might not be as many cut throughs. It really is actually creating a better neighborhood for this community. So I understand public outreach. We've been talking about it for 3 months. It's been on our agendas. I will also just say, backing up to Wabaska Street that we did 5 years ago, that was an amendment. That was something I wrote with for 6 years with kids under 12 years old, for 6 years to Dana Middle. It was never on the bicycle master plan. It's never been in our community plan. Therefore, I had to go through this process in like last minute strategies to try to get it as a bicycle corridor, to try to get the improvements. And it is a great improvement to Wabaska. And I hope we can understand that. So it is really just about trying to, I understand we have lots of amendments to the community plan, but I understand the processes can be so long. So, 2 years to wait for a bunch of amendments might miss that resurfacing project. So that's where I just wanted to clarify. And then just try to wrap this up. Corla, sorry, did you have a question?
Well, should this be on our CIP list then? Should this be something we present as a CIP? It's not that.
No, I don't think it's high priority CIP project. This is and I just clarify on some of those conversations earlier that when Brad was talking, some of the things just aren't CIP projects. Some of these crosswalks, signage are not CIP projects. CIP projects are actually concrete and construction projects. So we need to kind of by those differentiations when we talk about traffic calming and improvements in our corridors. This is merely just getting it through. So if it does get resurfaced, hey, maybe they'll look at some way of improving it in a better way and come to our community and ask us. That's really what it is about. And so if it's possible, I'd love to motion to approve the letter.
Well, with that, Nicole, I'm coming back at you. So Nicole, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, that's what I just said. Yeah, I'll motion to approve the letter. Thank you.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
I'll second.
I got Mandy. So we have a motion by Nicole, second by Mandy to approve the proposed letter with the proposed bike boulevard lane. Do we have any further discussion on that? Brad?
So is this just like an internal designation for the street? It's not a city approved thing. We don't need to have experts to make a determination if this is a bike boulevard, or so is this just naming a route? I mean, where do we get the signs? I mean, I guess I just want to be in compliance because it's always seems in the past where I think Corla alluded to it that you get things evaluated. If you have a question about an intersection, you ask the experts, is this appropriate? Is this an appropriate use of this? Or are we just voting on, we just want this to be a boulevard? And I don't know how you get the signage put in if it's not something sort of official.
It would be an amendment to the community plan, amendment to the bicycle master plan. It basically, I think the best thing I can answer that for you, Brad, is the blast. Somebody was talking about community outreach. Our community are our experts. So for me, the many of us that volunteer our time, if we understand our community, we are the experts, and we should be designating what we know in our community, and we shouldn't be leading it up to city planners to evaluate to see if this is the corridor. I mean, it's where people are riding and how you designate them, right? So I appreciate the concerns and the questions, but it's really just to have it so that our community shows that we support this corridor for people to be commuting on. And I will tell you, it is safer than being on Emmets at this moment.
Really?
For me.
John, do you have a question, another comment?
Yeah, could we have the letter read orally before we vote?
Mandy, do you mind doing that, please?
Well, and we also have, do we want to do that now? Jeff, I think, has his hand up again. Or
I
maybe
don't-
still, I'm
I've
not
never
sure.
seen him take his hand down. So Jeff, I don't know if Jeff has a new question or just doesn't know how to put the hand up and down. So whichever.
Yeah, I put it back up again.
Okay,
No.
sorry.
This board has to think very seriously about writing letters and making recommendations on things from the cycling community with absolutely no backup. You did the same thing on that crosswalk that they want to put down at Voltaire and Froude Street. There's absolutely no backup for that request. You haven't done any outreach to the people along this route. The same thing happened on West Point Loma. This board is continuing to agree with the cycling community with no information. It doesn't make any sense why you would designate a lane like this with those roads where somebody couldn't walk out there with that graphic that says what a bicycle boulevard is and ask those people what they think. What happens is the cycling community is pushing these things through and people wake up later and they discover all these changes in their streets. It doesn't make this board look good when you just continue to support things that have no backup whatsoever attached to them. It doesn't make any sense.
Thank you, Jeff.
Fred,
Okay,
I'd like to
okay,
respond
Brad.
to that.
Brad.
Yeah, Jeff, we've talked about this a couple of times. I'm just going to back up to the Froude situation. We asked the city to evaluate that intersection. It is not our job to investigate how many accidents there have been. We are not analysts. We are not professionals. It's not our job. We had it analyzed and it met the criteria for what was placed there with no problems. It's got bus stops. It's got enough traffic. They agreed. They said, fine. So, you know, some of us were uncomfortable with that intersection. We did have an initial letter where we did request something specific and the board turned around and said, you are not experts and cannot ask for something. You have to ask that you would like it evaluated, and it was. And that's why I'm kind of troubled by this one, because once again, we're asking for an outcome where I don't feel as though we're necessarily qualified to make the determination.
But
So,
that Voltaire letter, you characterize that as the most dangerous intersection in Point Loma.
It was one of some.
Right.
Yes.
With absolutely no historical backup for that statement.
Well, I mean, we don't need it. All you could do is you could do that. You could go on, get it done. Just a second, Jeff. You could, the traffic engineer I spoke with at that time said, you can go on, get it done, and we'll evaluate that intersection. We don't have to do this 3-month process to go to the board and get a letter and have them evaluate it. You could get it done and it would do the same thing in 15 minutes. So, you know, you're not affected by it. I thought it was dangerous. My wife was very uncomfortable at that intersection. So that's how that happened. And I'm sorry that, well, to your satisfaction, it's never been done. It's never been funded.
Litigate the Voltaire Froude.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just wanted to clear the air. Jeff keeps bringing it up, and I just wanted to make sure that
you still have no backup for that.
You don't need it, Jeff. You don't need it.
So Brad, are you comfortable with the letter, or did you want to recommend an amendment that it be sent to the city to evaluate the proposed bike path to turn it into a bike boulevard?
I'm not going to vote for it as it is presently. I might abstain because I don't have enough information, but yeah, I don't like putting a name on something where I don't feel like I'm qualified to do it. You know, that's why we got experts. That's why we got professionals.
And isn't that what the letter's doing, providing that recommendation to the city to make that determination? Again, we've stated that the city
you're asking for an outcome, seems to me.
Yes, and if you are not comfortable, I mean, I don't see any harm in asking for like an evaluation to see if the city finds that it would be appropriate.
Well, if you could ask if the letter was, a couple of sentences asking for that route to be evaluated as a bike boulevard, I'd be okay. And then let the process work out. Does it get evaluated? Does it get accepted at that? Fine. Then you could make an amendment once approved by, experts.
I agree with that. It's the language of, and Brad put it in better terms than I was able to. If it were to say, to have them evaluate instead of asking for the outcome, like he said, I'd be supportive of that and then go from there. But I don't know if the motion maker wants to amend that or not. I think Nicole's pretty strong.
It's up to you, Nicole.
No, and actually, can I recommend that the motion be changed just in the letter, instead of designated as a bicycle boulevard, we just designate it as a bicycle route. Then it can be designated in future of what kind of bikeway it would be.
I
But
vote for that in a second.
so let's just change just change boulevard to route in the letter. And then wherever it says boulevard, just say route. That's a class 3. And we have those all over town. They
Yeah,
don't.
it already is, right? I mean, it's shadowed
The
right now, isn't it?
Locust Poe are not bicycle route. No, there's no designation. There's no signage for people riding bikes to know that that's a corridor.
Does that need a community plan change?
Correct. It needs to be designated as a class, as a bike route, that we would like to see this as a bike route. I mean, basically, if
Okay.
you want to have bike route, I can amend the motion to have the left route instead of bicycle boulevard.
Would
If
you
we-
say that again, Nicole? You cut out. I'm sorry. Would you?
So I would motion to accept the letter with changing bicycle boulevard with bicycle route, meaning that's a class 3. Maybe it's a class 2, maybe it's a bicycle boulevard, but it's a designated bicycle route through Poe. Landing's already connected. Rosecrans is already a bicycle route. So it would just be on Poe, Locust, to, that designation right in there.
And then with the long-term goal of having it evaluated to potentially be a bicycle boulevard? I just like
On
process.
Evergreen?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Fine.
Well,
I'm
I
okay
don't,
with that.
well, there's no money for all that kind of stuff. I mean, that whole bicycle boulevard thing, that's never going to happen anyway. Is
Oh,
it?
I'm not, they won't do all this stuff on this
Yeah.
plan that Paul's saying.
Cutouts and bumps and all that stuff.
No, I don't think that would happen.
All right, so as it is getting late, so we're going to go with, Nicole has agreed to amend her motion to approve the letter, but instead of calling it, instead of going for the bicycle boulevard designation, we're going to just go for a classic bicycle route. And she's agreed to do that. Mandy, you're the second. Do you agree to second that?
Yes, I will.
Okay. And I think that with that, I think we're going to call for the question. So given that motion, how many, who is in favor? Raise your hand. So I want to get a good row count here. I see Nicole, Sam, Dawn, Corla, Brad, Angela, Tina, Paul, Eva. I can't see Joe. She's dark.
Matt's hand is up.
What?
Matt's
And Matt, you're for it. So I think that that's 12, and I don't know which way Joe is, so I'm just gonna count that as, it looks like that passed 12 to nothing then. No, I didn't vote. I think it's 11.
It's 11-0.
11 to
And
nothing.
I apologize, I brought confusion in with the bicycle boulevard language. I think
No, that's fine. And I'm sorry to be difficult. I
Thank you for
apologize.
your-
You know,
And-
I ride that route. I ride a bike down there and I appreciate what you're doing. You know that, Nicole. And I went to NACTO because of you.
Well, and I think we should look at it in the positive light. I mean, I think it's good that Nicole brought it up there. We all care about bicycles, but we also want to be making sure that the board makes appropriate action. So I think it was a healthy conversation, and so Brad, I think you should feel good about raising those kind of questions so we could kind of walk that through and work together like a board, like we're supposed to. So that's good. All right. With that, we're on the home stretch. So do any of the committees have any reports that they'd like to make? I don't think we have long-term planning, parks and recreations. Do we have anything?
Parks and Recreation, no updates from there, but we do have traffic and transportation. We're actually going through the list of the traffic areas of concern. It was about 5 pages. We've converted it into an Excel spreadsheet and put it on a shared drive. And we've broken up and designated 15, there's 60 line items that are current. And this has been on a list that's been maintained since 2017. So we've distributed the list to the entire subcommittee, and then we've assigned 15 lines to 4 different subcommittee members. And we're basically going through each of those items to confirm if they are still relevant, or if they have been addressed, notate that and annotate that. Another idea was to submit all that were appropriate, the traffic requests that were on that list to the through the Get It Done app. And if that is done in the course, that they would submit the report number for the Get It Done app. And then one other area of concern is we wanted to ask that we go through that list and identify all the items that have to do with Rosecrans. If you are a community member, we've had a lot of issues with traffic safety along Rosecrans in the Roseville area. And what Nicole brought up earlier is there might be an opportunity for us to ask SANDAG to prioritize their military multimodal plan that has been approved by SANDAG, and that would help provide, if they were to expedite that, that could potentially help us fund and install traffic safety mitigations to further enhance the safety of that street. And so that's something that we are continuing to work on. We do want to get through these items, and even though they've been on there for quite some time, we want to go through and do our best to encourage traffic safety within our community. So that's all I have for traffic and transportation. And again, we meet same time every month on the second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. If you would like to participate, or if you know people, we're always looking for community members. So if you know someone who'd like to be a part of the subcommittee, feel free to let them know we're looking for community members as well. So thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, Mandy, I got something else for you, and actually just for everybody on the board, so I'll make this so we're on the recording, but I just got a text from Joe Holisek, who's on mute there. And he said he was voting yes on the last motion, but I couldn't hear him. So he texted me. So the vote should have been 12-0 and not 11.
12-0. All right.
So
Thank
Joe,
you.
your vote
I
is now
modified
counted.
the count.
Yes.
Thank you. And that's all I have.
You still here if there's any update from the environmental ad hoc committee or anything there?
With the environmental ad hoc, our next meeting will be in July, on July, let me get the date for you, July 21st. We are reaching out. One of our first ad hoc meeting that we had for the environmental, we invited Ann Jackson with Non-Toxic San Diego. She was very concerned about the pesticides, particularly Roundup, that was being used in our public spaces. And we were able to work with her and get a letter of support to the city. And just a little update, Liberty Station was listed as one of the parks that they were going to use as a pilot park, which I was very encouraged because my children go there, and I'm very, I try to limit the amount of chemicals I expose myself and my family to. So it's very encouraging to see the city trying to find a more earth-friendly and people-friendly alternative to pesticides and herbicides. But we are going to ask her to see if she can come out and give us an update on what she's doing currently and where the city and her have collaborated, and what's new with all things non-toxic San Diego. So hopefully she'll be a guest at that next meeting, July 21st.
Well, if she's really good and you think she'd be an interesting informational item, let me know. And we could also, I think there'd be other people that might be interested in hearing her. Go ahead, Corla.
Yeah, can I ask Mandy a question? I remember your list when you guys started, and my goodness, it was quite the list. You guys are really doing a great job making a dent on that. Can you circulate that to the board, or is it posted and maybe someone just might happen to outreach that way or something? Because I haven't seen that list for a couple of years.
Sure. What I'd like to do is, like I said, we're working on it currently. After the next board meeting, when we pull it all together and kind of organize it better, I'd be more than happy to share that with the board so that we all have access.
Yeah, that sounds great, because that was like page after page of lists. It was really something you guys were trying to dig into. So,
right. Thank you.
I'll give a quick update on the airport. I went to the ANAC meeting yesterday, and the ANAC recommendations to try to curb the noises that were passed by ANAC then went to the airport authority. The airport authority has approved them too, and they've been sent to the FAA. So we are continuing to proceed forward with FAA review and work in good faith with the FAA. And got some positive news on the the sort of the late night departures that go south around Point Loma. That the FAA is going to work hard to try to keep those farther out offshore to decrease noise on Point Loma. And I guess the bad news for Point Loma and the good news for the rest of the world is that the projections from the airport as of yesterday were that they think they're back at about 60%, I think right now, but they think by October they'll be up at 90% of operations. So it's going to get, it'll get louder. So that's it. And there was a new environmental impact statement that came out. Corla forwarded that, and Paul, if you're interested, Paul Webb, if you're interested in looking at that at all or anything like that, the airport committee could do that. There's a relatively short window regarding the Terminal 1 expansion. So.
And Fred, I'm absolutely uninterested in doing that, but I need to. And I would encourage anybody else who wants to provide input to me. I will try to provide a letter in a timely fashion. And I would seek anything that anybody else has to add to the conversation. And I'll reach out to Paul Grimes in particular, because he's very knowledgeable about this.
That he is.
Well, I just want to comment, significant and unavoidable harm is all over those environmental statements, and I just don't like it. That's all I got to say.
Well, yeah, and NAVWARS too, but
Yeah. All right, with that, I don't know if there's any more report. It was a good meeting. I appreciate everybody. Is there anything else that anybody needs to say? With that, then we are adjourned. Thank you. And remember that I've rescheduled the meeting for July 22nd, and we will see you then. Any questions before that, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you, everyone.